You made it, folks. It's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. No, not the Dragnet way, but in the week way. Oh, my goodness. Weekend after this is going to be a little bit less than we're experiencing over the last few days. It's going to be mostly sunny today, 62 degrees. Tomorrow, and again, they've continued to push the bad weather to the right. We've got partly cloudy at 63. Sunday, showers and cooler at 57. Monday drops down to morning flurries at 47. That sucks. Anything that says morning on it, I hate. Largely because it impacts me, and mostly me and Billy in a disproportionate way. Had to clean off the windshield this morning. Left the car out last night. Had the little ice buildup on it. There's nothing more disappointing than walking out like when you're already running late and you see that there's ice built up on the windshield and you're like, come on. And of course your mind races. How quickly can the car heat up? Can I scrape it off? What if I just stood up on the hood of the car and urinated on it? Would that actually make matters worse, or would it clean off the... I don't know the answer to any of those things. I don't want to find out. I just wish that, I'd put the car in the garage. So nonetheless, that's where we're at. The big weekend coming up for, CU, Broncos. Each team got to get wins if they want to keep the season from looking like a giant dumpster fire. Also, this evening down at the Air Force Academy, it is Army Air Force women's basketball. Now, there's really no reason for me to know that fact, let alone care about that fact, but there's a lieutenant colonel out at West Point, teaches in the law department, who had been, I think, this is going back 100 years, back when I worked for DJC, Dan Kaplis. She was a friend of a good buddy of mine, Judge Bobby Holdman, out of the Bronx and greater New York City. And she had interned for him, and she'd gone to law school. Maybe it was Fordham. She was also a world-class athlete. There's a world-class athlete program for the Army. She was thinking about doing the JAG Corps. He said, hey, would you talk to her about it and all this? Anyway, one thing leads to another. She goes to Europe for a while, plays on all those European professional leagues, becomes a JAG officer. I ran into her once at the JAG school out in Charlottesville. It was a long time ago before I deployed. And then she gets married to a colonel. They have a couple kids. She keeps progressing. Lo and behold, I think she helps coach this team. She emails me. She goes, hey, I'm going to be at the Air Force Academy on Friday night. Any chance you'd come down and say hi and watch the game? And I'm like, what? I would have never given it any thought, but now I don't know. Maybe it depends a little bit on the weather, and schedules and stuff, but maybe I go down there. Maybe I can take Grandma Llama Ding Dong or something like that. Maybe I go down and watch women's basketball. I'm intrigued by CU women's basketball a little bit more. I think they're number 5 in the country, but maybe I'll go down and do that. And then this weekend is all the prep for Thanksgiving, of course, with all the things in your house that you walk by that are crime scenes that you're now like, boy, if family comes over, I don't want to have that on the ground, right? Like I can't have that chalk outline of that animal, whatever that was.
Is that blood?
Yeah, is that blood? And then you're like, nope, it's cherry.
Because of course you have to taste it.
Well, or you have the kids come over. What is that, Jeff? What is that there?
Right there. Yeah.
I think I'd mentioned before, I'd purchased a ton of these big candy bars. I was going to be that guy, and I wasn't able to get there and hand out all the stuff and all that. Well, whatever was left over is now all gone. And
really?
It was, oh my God, it's all gone via just one of the kids. And
it is great to thinking back to those times in which you had a fast metabolism. It was fantastic. Those were good days.
By all measure of nutrition and metabolism, really, Jeff should be 450 pounds. I don't know why he's not. Yeah. But instead, and he's as tall as I am right now, which also bothers me because I still think he's got some growing left to do. But yeah, I don't get it. I eat a candy bar and I can't wear my pants for 6 months.
And
these kids
awful.
Put them in like they're Pez.
Yeah, I can be very, very good 6 out of the 7 days. I'm not good for the one day. It wipes out the entire other 6 days. It's as if I didn't even do anything. I could have just wallowed in a bath of my own filth and chocolate sauce and done just as much. I know. I like the visuals. But my kids too. They just pour it into their bodies, and you're like, how is this not? Some of the times what passes for nutrition in my daughter's diets is like, that's not, I don't even think that's a food group. and somehow they're just rail thin. I don't know.
It's
I don't get it.
wasted on the
Yeah, it
youth,
is. It
frankly.
is.
I
It's
could
awful.
use that.
Yes, and think about it. Think about if as a kid you hung out and all the calories hung out you when you were a big, fat, chubby kid. And then when you got to be an adult, you were thin.
Yeah,
and you
right.
could eat things.
Like-
and think about how much you would appreciate that, how you take
I
care
would.
of your body.
I would, if I could have the Benjamin Button of metabolisms.
I'm
You
so
know what I
sad.
mean? Like if I could go
Yeah.
in reverse order, that would be the way to go.
Oh, it'd be great.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
At this point, and someone said when you crest over 50, and someday I will, that's when things start just going into hibernation mode in anticipation, I imagine, of that
Yes.
long dirt nap. that I'm
Yes,
taking.
exactly.
But it's like, please stop doing that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
please let me want to get up and do something.
Yeah. There are times in which you're like, ow, that hurts in this. And you're just looking at yourself. I'm not dead yet. I mean, do we really have to hurt this much this morning? I mean, really?
Or just at this point, I'm finding a little bit of a lack of motivation to do stuff. Like I didn't sleep well last night.
Yeah.
I thought, man, I can get up and crush this one thing that I owe. Actually, I owed it 2 days ago, but I didn't get it done. And I just laid there in bed thinking,
why?
Is there any chance I go back to sleep? And then about an hour later, I'm like, it doesn't seem like I'm going to go back to sleep.
And that is the worst part is you sit there and you look at the clock and you can't, you almost, you have to look at the clock, but you don't look at the clock and you go, okay. And you're making that deal. If I go to sleep now, I can get 40 minutes. And then you're sitting there and then you look back over the clock.
Yep. And I'm like,
okay,
no,
now it's 30 minutes.
No.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, it's not good. So
No.
the weekend holds in store all of those things that you do. Like I've got to figure out too now, where do I put the turkey when we buy it? I mean, the fridge is just so freaking full of nonsense that I'm like, what am I doing?
Ours is in the fridge.
You already have it.
Yeah,
of course you do.
My wife came home yesterday from work with a turkey that had to be some sort of a island of Dr. Moreau genetic experiment. This thing is enormous.
How many families are you feeding?
Exactly. I don't know. I don't know if she thinks we're feeding the entire neighborhood, but oh my Lord, the thing is enormous. And so cleaned out a portion of the fridge last night, moved some things. We got some things laying on the side, bottles of juice and things are on the side because of that. And actually one shelf I had to remove. I took one shelf out.
Maybe that's
too tall.
it. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. But there's not a lot of space left. But however, my wife earlier this week, she was like, it's Turkey week. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, you got to work your way through that, that fridge. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see what we can do. So I've been passing off leftovers to the kids, and I've been eating leftovers for lunch, and even had the family. I've been doing the bar stuff, but they had leftovers for dinner twice this week in order to clean out and make sure there was room.
The problem with the leftovers, man, is that I find myself eating stuff I'm not hungry for just to make the room. Like I'm like, oh, there's only a half of that left.
Yeah,
now I'll eat that too. And then look, there's a bowl of something I can heat up. Yeah, I need the space, and I'll just clean that out. And I feel like I've accomplished something.
Oh yeah, exactly. I say it all the time that we got leftovers in the house, and my wife does not really like the leftovers, and so there are basically two choices. It's like me or three: me, the cats, or the dog, because the kids don't want to have it either. The cats are picky. The dog will eat damn anything, and so it's probably me because she's already pushing maximum density, and I need to lose weight too. But it's worse on her than it is on me at this point. So yeah, I end up with being the sacrificial leftover guy. It's the okay, I'll eat that.
The other thing too is I've become a huge skeptic. And listen, I won't buy into the stolen election thing. You're gonna have to prove it to me.
Yeah.
But somehow I've bought into the expiration date on the foods thing. It's a big conspiracy to get me to throw away good food so I go out and buy more. Like I look at it and I'm like, no, that doesn't really mean I can't eat it after that date. Like there must be, it's like we've talked about this a little bit in other contexts. It's like when you're getting off the off ramp on a clover leaf and it has the yellow, 30 mile an hour or something. I've tried to tell the kids that's not a law. That's a suggestion.
Yes. Suggestion.
And that tells me that if all the super smart street makers say it's 30, it's really probably more like 45 plus, you know what I mean? And they're just like, look, we want to ratchet this thing down. And I feel the same way about the expiration date. Like if it says it expired 2 days ago, probably still good for a week.
Oh, absolutely. Now that's expiration dates, depending on what it is. You probably can go at least an extra 4 to 6 weeks on most of them.
Oh, 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah, easily on most of them.
But not dairy products.
Not dairy, but milk. Some dairy milk. Well, milk, it depends. Here's the thing. Milk,
I'm shuddering
not really,
thinking about it.
Well, milk, not really, but okay. I got to bring my nerd card out. Put the nerd card on the table. It depends on where you store the milk inside of the fridge, because storing the milk in the door or up near the front that's warmer because it's getting opened all the time, especially if you store the milk in the door.
Yeah, no, I don't
because
do
it's
that.
open. If the milk is further inside the
it
fridge,
is.
if it's colder, you can go a few more days. Absolutely. But it's going to expire almost to the minute if you have it stored in the door or in the front of the fridge. Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous. Just because of the exposure back and forth and the change in temperatures. The dairy, I mean, how do you tell if sour cream has gone bad, other than it's green and furry?
Well, the green and furry, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is with the milk is it will naturally convert into what appears to be cottage cheese. So I don't even know that you can say that's gone bad.
Yeah, no, not at all. And if you shake it hard enough, sometimes butter. So, it's, it's a gift that gives twice. Yeah, it's awful. It is awful.
Yeah, I find myself now picturing which shelf, because of your suggestion, which shelf am I going to remove?
Oh, yeah.
What do I do with that shelf? And I don't know, man.
The scary one, if you're talking about expiration dates,
I am.
The scary is to go archaeologist and go through your freezer. Because whatever's at the back or bottom of the freezer, that stuff's been expired for years. Years. It has been
somebody gave me at one point venison, which I'm led to believe is a type of raccoon.
Yes, it is.
Some venison.
Very delicious.
And I kept thinking to myself, well, I'm going to thaw this thing out and I'm going to barbecue it over the summer or something. That happened a long time ago. Now there's no stamps or anything on it for dates, but I find myself staring at it in the freezer trying to picture when that meeting was where he gave it to me. And it's 6-7 years ago.
Oh,
I mean,
God,
easy.
then that needs to go bye-bye.
Yeah, I don't. It's frozen though, so it lasts forever.
Sure, we'll go with that.
I mean, can it really degrade if it's
yes, it can.
Frozen?
Well, it doesn't go bad, but it has to do with okay, there is moisture inside of the meat and anything that you freeze, and especially meat. There's moisture inside the meat, and what happens when water freezes? It becomes ice. And
it expands.
It expands because the shape of the molecule changes. The little legs spread out. So ice expands. So what you have is when the moisture inside of the meat freezes, the ice expands and it tears and changes the fibrous portions of the meat. It's not nearly as good, especially if it sits there for a long time. And then when you bring it out later, it's not good. It's no good.
As the show continues its slow transition to life hacks by William Thorpe. Here's another texter. Don't buy milk in a clear container. What's Billy's opinion?
It depends on what you want to do with it. The problem is that if you want to get a gallon, it's hard to get a gallon on anything but the cardboard container. But the cardboard container is easier also just because it's going to be more of an insulator than the thin plastic. The cardboard will do a better job of that just on a base.
But what about, you remember the old days when they used to deliver the milk to your house? You'd have Royal Crest Dairy in the little box and they'd drop the stuff in there.
I grew up in a house that had an ice box door in the side of the freaking wall. Wow. We was open to the outside, and you had a thing you could open on the outside. You could open on the inside. It was a pass-through. So it's where they used to slide the blocks of ice in. So
you could get glass in there, but you could typically, it was those reusable plastic things like you would get done with your little milk thing and you'd throw it back in there, and then the dude would come along. And I say dude because I never saw a single woman driving that route. You'd only see the headlights at like 4 in the morning or something coming down the road.
There's a joke there, but I'm not going to say anything
about it. They would grab it and walk. Yeah.
Now here's the thing: is the plastic that they're using for Royal Crest have a feel, have a touch. Spend some time with it versus the plastic that you have in King Supers and Safeway. It is a different level of plastic. The what they use inside a Royal Crest is much thicker and will be more of an insulator and will preserve the milk longer. They just use a higher quality. It's also just more of it. So it's much better than what we get out of the grocery store.
Let me, if you don't mind, transition into something else that it's been water cooler talk for a day or so. I didn't think it was a huge story until I saw the social media's blowing up on this thing. But there's a woman out there who does a job called sideline reporting for the NFL. Her name is Carissa Thompson, and it's Carissa spelled differently than every other Carissa you've ever seen because it has an H jammed in there somewhere. But nonetheless, she was on a podcast called Pardon My Take. And she had also apparently talked about this same thing years ago with Aaron Andrews, who was also a sideline reporter.
Question from the back here.
Yeah.
How? Okay, did I miss a meeting? What was there some sort of a
pants meeting?
No, it's a conversation where we just decided as a society that we are going to be able to randomly insert letters into a name and then ignore the pronunciation. Did I?
So
did I miss
Charissa?
That? Yes, it would have to be.
What about character though? Character is CHAR.
Yeah, it
You
could
wouldn't
be.
call it character.
Character, but even then, it's even, but then it makes a C sound too sometimes. So it could be Sarissa, because you can do that too.
I'm
times,
gonna
but
add a J somewhere in my name.
I just don't understand. I'm gonna go with 3 M's and a
Second
silent
J.
Q. Just
For
because,
Mk.
yeah.
Uh,
Just because I'm just curious about this. I don't understand. Somebody
well,
explain this to me.
Charissa has conceded here a couple times, I guess, with no sense of shame or irony or regret, any of those words. That and this is a quote.
Or professionalism.
Do you have?
I'm trying to get. I don't have it. I can't.
Let me just
find
read
it right
you the
now,
quote
yeah.
while we look for this. I've said this before, so I haven't been fired for saying it, but I'll say it again. I would make up the report. This is the sideline report sometimes because A, the coach wouldn't come out at halftime or it was too late. And I was like, I didn't want to screw up the report. So I was like, I'm just going to make this up. She then explained that there was no harm in anything she would say to audiences. Here's the quote. No coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on third down. We need to stop turning the ball over and do a better job of getting off the field. She continued. Like,
I think I found it.
they're okay. Yeah, let's hear this.
Now I got this is part of the way through. I don't want to try to rewind it because I think I'm gonna mess it
Hopefully
up.
she's not
I think
cursing
I've got
here,
it.
Billy.
Let's find out.
Make up the report sometimes because A, the coach wouldn't come out at halftime or it was too late. And I was like, I didn't want to screw up the report. So I was like, I'm just going to make this up because first of all, no coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on third down. We need to stop turning the ball
Pressure
over.
the quarterback.
We need, yeah, exactly. and do a better job of getting off the field. Like they're not going to correct me on that.
Right.
So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just make up the report.
It would be very funny if you were like, yeah, so I just spoke with Arthur Smith at halftime and he said Bijan Robinson blew smoke in his face. And that's why he's not getting the ball.
Yeah.
That would be funny if you
know
made
what?
up like an
I would go back and do sidelines if I could make it up. Like,
you did make it up.
You
What are you
did.
talking
What do you mean
about?
go back.
The other thing is, I love the standard isn't it's okay even though it's a lie or it's not accurate. It's based on no coach is going to get mad if. Like if I just attribute a quote to you that won't incense you, it's okay. It's journalism.
Which again shows me that the vast majority of these post-game interviews are complete waste of time.
This is mid-game.
I
this
know,
is
but
coming out of the...
Here's where I'm going with this. I'm sorry to all of you reporters that waste your time sitting in the room post-Broncos, post-Nuggets, post-Avs. It's mostly worthless because of things like this. Now, Charissa decided to tell us that she can just say stuff that is normal, just stuff that the coaches say. You got to do better on third down. Got to get off the field. You got to play harder. So all the times that we hear the coaches say that, like she said, is just blowing smoke. They're not actually giving you any analysis. So the vast majority of the time, it's, oh, look, the coach is running into halftime. He's going to come over. What is he going to say to us? He's going to say something worthless that Charissa could have just made up.
Yeah,
it is worthless. It shows for me 2 levels. 1, that is a stupid job. Stop doing it. We don't need it. 2, stop doing the interviews because they're mostly just performative crap. They're not telling you anything. So can we stop pretending like they do anything for us? Please stop.
It's the Deerdorferation of all of this reporting. And I've never been a fan of Dan Deerdorf, not as a person. I'm sure he's a wonderful man and was a decent ball player. But every single game he was ever on doing the color commentary, he, as best I can tell, and I don't want to exaggerate, said 0 things of quality ever. I mean, they were observations that my son could make without watching. I could make them without watching the game. Like, they're really going to want to get a first down on this play. Which is the play where they don't want the first down? Or, man, they're going to regret not scoring there. Like,
I mean, when are they come in and go?
Fascinating.
This is a 3rd down and 3. A surprise punt would be a great choice. I mean, there's stuff in there. I mean,
there are people that are out there that have the insight and share it where I feel like I'm being made smarter about football and they know what they're talking about. I'm a fan of Tony Romo. And I haven't watched every game he's done, but he tends to bring something, in my opinion, something else to the games when he talks about how dudes are lined up or even the people that do their homework for their once-a-week game. I'm a big fan of Al Michaels, but they've
Schlereth here in town. He's great.
They've done their homework, and they'll tell you, like, remember 3 games ago when they tried to run this same routing and blah, blah. It's like, okay, thank you for not just showing up and saying stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But this is
there was a Monday night game. Patrick Mahomes shows up with the New Broncos and the Peyton Manning thing. The cast is going on.
Manning cast,
and Mahomes calls plays too, right? Said this is what they're going to do. This would be great. And calls out the defense at one point and says the defense is going to do this. And he's right.
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's just
what you
different
need.
level stuff,
the,
man.
The
Different
color guy,
level.
the play-by-play guy, this is the rule. Inside of sports broadcasting, the play-by-play guy is what happened. The color guy is why it happened. And we do not have enough people that can accurately tell us why. Too many of them just sit there and repeat stuff they've heard elsewhere or just give us the observations. My son makes fun of me because the number of times that I yell at the TV on a Saturday or a Sunday morning in soccer going, "Oh, that was brilliant." Yeah, thank you, Einstein. Just again, it's not just inside of NFL or NBA. We get it in soccer too, where it is just a stupid comment.
They also, if you remember back in the day when they had 3 in the booth for Monday Night Football and all that stuff, they also experimented with the Dennis Miller and the Russell.
Someone's got to be funny.
That's the role I want to be. I want to be the guy that just comes in and says stupid stuff that's related to football, doesn't really detract. It's just a little pause while people reset. And then we get back to it. But this here, I thought this was interesting. I didn't think it was groundbreaking. Holy crap, man. The sports reporting universe has come unglued over this statement.
Yeah.
Like all of these other women reporters who treat the sideline stuff like they're out there earning Peabodys.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like, and they're like, I take this so
job.
seriously. And this is my credibility is, I'm like, well, credibility. You're a sideline reporter for the NFL.
Yeah.
It's one of the great jobs in reporting. Don't get me wrong, but you haven't cured cancer. You haven't figured out Watergate Part 2. I mean, short of you getting a confession from the coach that, hey, listen, before I take the field, I just want to admit last night I stabbed my neighbor to death.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, short of you coming up with something like that.
Yeah. There's
Well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know,
the thing is, the sideline reporter is a worthless job. And this is coming from someone who's done the stupid job. It is worthless. And the insight that the person on the sidelines is able to provide is next to zero because they can't share the really interesting conversations they overhear where you have someone yelling at somebody else or someone talking about how this doesn't work. Stop calling this play. That's the interesting stuff, but they can't tell us that because then the coaches would be mad. It is a worthless job. And what I think is funny,
except it probably pays, buddy, more than you and I combined times 2.
Easily. And that's why is I look at all these people, the reason that all these sideline reporters are mad is because they're like, you blew the con. You told them how we're doing the magic trick.
Yeah.
You don't come out and Penn and Teller this crap. Don't do that. Don't
and
tell
even
them.
Penn and Teller don't tell you the whole thing.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
Yes, they're like, do not tell the plebes that this job that we get paid so much for is worthless. Stop it. Stop saying that we can just make it up and do the same thing.
You said this off air, and I think it's probably true, and that is the number one credential that she's bringing to the sidelines is attractive. You know what I mean? And maybe that's how you you lure over the coach or something.
Well, no,
but if you're not luring over the coach for the comment, what are you doing there?
But it's also how you lure the viewers because think about it.
Maybe
this is where
the Fox News approach.
Yes, it is, and has been for years because it's the this is going to sound bad, but basically the sports guy is sitting there watching the TV, watching his favorite team, and he's like, "Wow, they're telling me lots of information about my favorite team. It sure would be nice if they could have the person be pretty that's telling me this. Could they maybe have some breast assistance? Then I'd be much more interested in this." And that's basically what it is. That's what this is. That's why.
Could we cut out the middle woman and just have the cheerleaders rotate through the sideline interviews?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you could have them then say, "Hey, coach." At least they're more familiar with them.
Here's the thing. Okay. You would get just as much viewership if you would cut out the sideline reporter and you would bring in one of the cheerleaders and she would tell you what she had for breakfast. You would have just as much interest. If she sat there and went, and this morning it was the oatmeal, and then after that I had some yogurt, and it was delicious. Team!
I don't want to be too flippant about it because I'm a big fan of Andrea Kramer, who has been doing
there's some that are solid.
I thought she was outstanding.
Yeah.
This Charissa is not Andrea Kramer at all.
No, the vast majority, and I feel bad for the women in the industry that I know are good reporters, that you hear them in other avenues and venues, and they are solid, and they're stuck with this BS job. But again, as long as the paycheck clears, congratulations, high five. You have figured out and gamed the system. Good job.
Billy, are you worried at all that as we move towards a more video-based,
That I need to become a woman?
uh,
Is that where we're going with this?
well,
'Cause
you don't need to become a woman, that
I've
at
been
some point
thinking.
they're going to replace you with someone who's probably
Oh,
AI, an
absolutely.
AI woman.
Oh,
but
absolutely. Yeah.
Nonetheless, because they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
want to pay.
Yes. If we are going to start doing things and really lean into the visual side of this year, that's not going to win.
So-
I got some problems.
Somebody texted in, "Hey, tell me you didn't love Phyllis George as a kid and an adolescent
Yes.
and a young man."
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
I loved her many times.
did.
Alone in the dark.
I might later today. We
Yes.
don't know. I don't-
Good idea.
Yes, that is true. But that is
Yeah. I love our
that's a
listeners. They're so good.
What's-
Oh, I
what
love that
is
they play
wrong?
along. I
What
know.
is wrong with people?
I have no idea.
And really us. What is
Yes,
wrong
it is-
with
what is
us?
wrong with us?
So
So much.
I don't know that this is a big deal, but I gotta believe she's gonna get fired.
Oh, hopefully.
And this is the way that they're. But I feel like as you said, she's not doing anything wrong. She
No.
just announced what they're doing, right?
Yes.
Like somebody left the curtain to Oz a little
Yeah.
open, and it's like that person gets fired, and it's like, wait. She just spoke the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know. I think she gets fired because they want to maintain the facade of credibility.
Oh, absolutely.
And so they got to be like, well, now you got to go. And she's going to say, but I had
Yeah.
the same talk with Aaron Andrews years ago.
Yes.
And you guys just said, that's so funny.
In fact, you gave me another job.
Yeah, you
put me on this other sideline. It's weird how that happens. To me, it's almost like right now in the music industry, there's a whole lot of the record companies are trying to change some of the rules for residuals, recordings, and your rights to your performances because they want to control them. They have figured out that Taylor Swift called them on their bluff. Taylor Swift went back into her back catalog after someone else purchased it and re-recorded all of her stuff. Now she owns that. The stuff, the back catalog is worthless because people are only playing the newer stuff that was re-recorded, and now she's making all the money off of that.
Yeah, I
And
just
so-
get the feeling
but all
you
the
don't-
record
you don't
companies are
mess
coming
with
in.
Tay-Tay.
No, but all the record companies are trying to change the rules so that if someone does that and they re-record their old stuff, they don't get the rights back because the record industry is all the big guys making all the money went, uh-oh. One of them has figured this out.
That's
Quick,
right. Yeah.
call the lawyers.
Yeah.
We cannot have this happen
Yeah,
again.
God love
The one thing we
lawyers.
cannot do is give them more of the monies. And so, yeah, they're doing that because Taylor figured out the scam. Same thing here is that people are mad because Charissa gave up the scam. They should Penn and Teller this job. This is not good.
Yeah. I want to see what happens to this young woman. And I say young just by appearance. I'm probably ages in
Yeah.
her or something, but or if it is a her.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see. I get the feeling that she won't do the NFL. I mean, what's the corrective action here if you're
I know,
HR?
I know.
Hey, sit down. Let's talk about some things.
Yeah.
One thing that we like is not lying on camera. That's sort of a thing we
Yeah.
do. I know it's sports, but we
Yep.
just don't want to make stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think you can do that? I mean, what's the corrective action here?
Well, the thing is, does she have any credibility left if she steps on the sideline again? I mean, granted, now she said it twice that I just make stuff up. Why would you put her on the sideline if you are the producer or executive producer of that broadcast? Do you take the person that says, "Hi, I lie," and go, "Ooh, that's the person that's getting to be on a broadcast"?
I just wonder if they
That's
keep
gonna help us
sending her
out here.
back. And this time, when the coach comes out too late or doesn't come out at all, if she just
Yeah.
stands there and says, "Chip, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
don't know. He won't come out."
The issue is going to be this: one, how much cleavage can she show, and how
Oh,
short is
buddy.
the skirt? That'll be the choice. If it's going to be a short enough skirt
I
and enough
know.
cleavage, then she's going to be on the sideline.
No, we.
That is the rule. That's how they do
that
this.
may be the Fox News rule. I
That's
don't
just
think
in
that's
general the rule. Yeah, it is. That is the
This
rule.
is why we're not on Fox News. That and a bunch of other
Exactly it.
reasons we're
Yes.
not.
And
Although
this here that we see on my side of the camera, that too
I
helps.
look at the
That's not
doofuses
good
who
for-
make up the male part of the thing. It's like they spend all their
Yeah.
time finding attractive, educated women to do the Fox News, but
Yeah.
then they just look at some dude sitting at a bar and they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Barney,
Yeah, exactly.
you want to do
Yeah.
the news?"
Wanna
And
do
he's
the
like,
news?
"Ah, sure, old man."
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
I can do the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today, Donald Trump said something really
Yeah,
smart.
exactly.
Bleh.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Listen, we got to cut away for a break here, and then we'll come back and do more impressions. I got to tell you about Gay Ribble with Empower Home, the real estate market. But listen, something else that's affecting real estate right now. We've been talking about the special session. I'm going to try to get Michael Fields on before I have to punch out at 8:30. And folks, the reason I'm leaving at 8:30 to be replaced by the incredibly smart and attractive face for radio, Jeff Hunt, is because this is part 2 of that final it's a jury selection class that I teach at DU every year. And this is part 2 of the final, and it starts at 9 and goes till 11:30.
The personal combat portion of the test.
This is the obstacle course portion of the whole thing. I just need to be there. So he'll be there. But nonetheless, trying to get Michael Fields on before that. The special session is starting. When you're talking about HH and Tabor and special session, you can't help but think this is all about real estate. And that is true, all about real estate. And that's because property values have exploded. Mortgage rates have gone through the roof. Scarcity is like I don't think we've ever seen it since I've been a kid here in Colorado. You need someone to help you through that process. You could do what I have been tempted to do so many times, and that is jump on the very first opportunity. But my guess is that becomes a reckless move. And you don't want to do that with the largest investment in your life and your family's life. You want to have some smarts behind your decision making. And if it can't come from you, and that's no knock on you, let it come from the experts with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. They will let you sell with certainty. That's why it's baked into the website sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. Sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. Give them a call at 833-301-SOLD. 833-301-SOLD. And again, I've said this before. If all you're interested in is getting the best dollar for your home and getting into your dream home with as little hassle and stress as possible, that's reason enough to call Gay. But if on top of that, you want to work with a good person, a constantly positive, upbeat person who has spent their adult life advocating for adoption and making families and putting families in great homes, great communities with great that's the other reason you call Gay Ribble, 833-301-SOLD. When we come back, it's going to be the good stuff. The Thorpe Report, followed by You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler right back at you. It's that time of the show with plenty of time. I say that just relative to what we usually do to each other on the radio. On the radio.
Oh, okay.
Keep it clean.
Okay.
It's called the Thorpe Report with Billy T.
And my theme song, they're playing behind us. Yes, I should play that all the time I go. I appreciate everyone that catches that one. All righty, weather today, 62 degrees, going to be partly sunny, mostly cloudy tomorrow. And then we're dropping into the high 50s and then high 40s by Monday. Windy, breezy. I could tell you what the forecast is going to be for Turkey Day, but who cares? They don't know what they're doing anyway. Critical incident investigation has been initiated. A 36-year-old man died after being arrested and handcuffed and placed on his side by Denver police officers in the early morning hours on Wednesday. This is a strange story. They get an emergency call. They show up. EMTs and officers are there. The guy seems to be having some sort of an issue or a breakdown. They go ahead and get him into the ambulance. He then says, no, I'm fine, leaves the ambulance. The police and the EMTs can't do anything at that point. He hasn't broken any laws. So then he starts to break some laws later on.
Great.
Yeah, breaks some windows, does some other stuff. Security guards involved in with one building get involved. And while they are trying to restrain the man, he starts fighting with them and biting several individuals. So they get a little physical. And then when the police show up, they handcuff him and then turn him on his side. And they notice in a couple of minutes that he is not responding to questions. They start CPR. And yeah, he passed away. So yeah, it doesn't seem to be necessarily because of a violent arrest or altercation, but it could be because of what was in his system. But we've got some questions here. We got a former Clear Creek sergeant who authorized deputies to use force to remove a 22-year-old from his car before he was shot and killed by those deputies, pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge yesterday. Former Clear Creek County Sheriff Deputy Kyle Gould pleaded guilty to ignoring his duty to report use of force and intervene in the shooting death of Christian Glass. Yeah, so he's sentenced to 2 years probation, $1,000 fine, and barred from working in law enforcement or security in Colorado, but only in Colorado.
What?
Basically. So that sounds great. In exchange for his guilty plea, they're dropping the charges of criminally negligent homicide and reckless endangerment. Denver police are seeking tips after a man was fatally shot Monday in East Denver. Trayvon Smith, 30, was shot and killed around 9:30 in the evening Monday night by Glass Creek Apartments. That's 7100 East Mississippi Avenue. Anyone with information is asked to call the police and help them out. They also have a man charged in connection with the death of a 9-month-old girl in 2020 that was convicted for one count and acquitted on the other that he faced, according to court records. The 24-year-old was found guilty of one count of child abuse, knowingly or recklessly causing death, and found not guilty of an initial count for the same charge. Also, we have the plastic surgeon. This is great. Is going to spend 15 days, 15 whole days in jail.
What?
And then 2 years on probation after he killed a patient.
Oh, this is the young girl who came in for the
breast
plastic
augmentation.
surgery.
Yeah, she wanted
God.
breast augmentation.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, 15 days. Faced 3 years in
Do
prison.
we know,
after
was
conviction.
that, and I should ask Kellner, was
Yeah.
that an agreed upon sentence, or
I
was
don't
that
know.
what the judge gave? Because that seems light.
I just, again, and I don't know all the circumstances, but if I'm the girl's family, 15 days? 15 days?
Yeah, you know
Really?
where this could be relevant is, remember the paramedics that Phil's trying to hang from a petard for killing
Elijah.
killing Elijah. They put him. Everybody says the ketamine is what led to this guy's death,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Led to Elijah's death.
Yeah.
I wonder how this impacts that. You never hear of doctors being prosecuted for malpractice ever.
No.
It's a civil thing. This guy must have clearly gone way over the line in order to qualify for a criminal prosecution, and yet he got 15 days?
Yeah, 15 days. And after conviction on attempted reckless manslaughter, which is a felony, obstructing phone service, which is a misdemeanor. Yeah, so he got 15 days for a felony. God, it's good to be a doctor. You just get special rules. You get to do your own stuff.
And this dude's the unicorn. He's the one that got prosecuted.
Yeah.
Like, nobody prosecutes malpractice that leads to death. There are 250,000 medically related deaths caused by medical mistakes a year.
And sometimes they use poison. If they're dentists. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, that's a little different. That ain't malpractice. That was his practice.
Yes,
Dang.
it was.
Boy.
Also, we got Denver police investigating a crash involving an RTD train that killed a pedestrian yesterday. A man was struck by a light rail train in the 600 block of Mariposa Street yesterday evening. Investigation ongoing. And the DPD is asking for your help identifying a person they'd like to speak to in connection with the shooting that killed some people outside that motorcycle club. We talked about it earlier in the week. They've released some pictures. And so they want to know if you know the dude, can help them track him down. Also, Dalton Reiser returning home with the Vikings back to Denver.
What?
He's playing with the Vikings this weekend, so he's back in Denver. So nice to see Dalton. Appreciate you. Wish you were still with the team. That's all I got.
Is Kirk Cousins going to be on the field?
I don't know, actually.
I
Haven't
hope
checked.
not.
I don't know.
Hope not. Hey, listen, before we go, texters, of course, they're the best. A lot of texts related to that last conversation. Some of them, and again, I want to only disavow it because I didn't say it, but I'm going to read it. It's her cleavage may not be real either, according to her comments.
Nice job.
Yeah, here's one. Before elective surgeries, don't we have to sign releases of liability in the case of death? Yes, you do, but you can't waive away that kind of felonious behavior. You can waive away carelessness, but I'm not sure negligence really is what it is. I'm
Yeah.
not sure you can. Not
Yeah,
sure you can
you're not
sign away recklessness or criminal
you're
conduct.
not giving the doctor permission to stab you.
Some-
Oddly enough.
Someone else texted in a picture of George Costanza saying it's not a lie if you believe it.
Yes, that is
if you
exactly
believe it. And then
You're my
another one, I'm
favorite. You're
going
my
back and
favorites.
forth with someone that says, hey, leave her on the sidelines and have her do which is true. She gives you one true report. And one. I said, how about just let's 3 truths and a lie? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, that is great.
that would be, frankly,
Yes.
the news could win me back
Oh,
on
yeah,
this. The
that
sideline
would too.
reporters could win me back.
Especially if you let us vote and you'll give us the answers.
And they do it,
after.
after the
Yes.
next break. We'll
Yes,
come back at
we'll
the end
come
of the
back and
third
tell
quarter.
you.
We'll
Yes.
tell you
Yes.
which is the lie. Yeah, that's
Yes.
the way to do it.
Oh,
Hey,
that's the way to do it.
listen, I want to cut away for another break and try to give Billy at least seconds to be able to get through the loser edition of You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Just enough time, I believe, for us to do the goodness at the end of a hard week. Billy Thorpe with You Choose the News.
Yes, sir. Oh, wait a minute. It is loser edition. It is time for the loser edition of You Choose the News.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser. You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser. You are such a loser. Loser.
Oh, I forgot that we had the loser edition open. This is fantastic. Congratulations. We have made it to a Friday, and we get to choose the losers. These are the stories that George did not have the temerity or the testicular fortitude to choose earlier in the week. We are giving them a second chance at glory. Let's see how well he does. All righty, sir. Here are your headlines that are returning for a second shot. 2 is better than 1, says the rich people. Sorry, Neil says I'm going to be late to work. We're ignoring the real risk. And 66-year-old lives out one of my dreams. Your choices yet again are 2 is better than 1, says the rich people. Sorry, Neil says I'm going to be late to work. We're ignoring the real risk, and the 66-year-old lives out one of my dreams.
Only because it hits so much closer to home than I'd like to admit. 66-year-old is living out one of my dreams.
Yes, 66-year-old man is living out one of my long-held dreams. This happened recently in an afternoon at a Piggly Wiggly. Yes, young gentleman, Herman McMillan, of the spry age of 66, decided that, those shopping carts that you can, the slow motorized ones that you have around the Piggly Wiggly, you drive around, you load up the cart in the front when you can't walk very well. Well, McMillan decided that this would be great. I'm just going to take it home. So, yes, he decided to drive away from the Piggly Wiggly in his shopping cart. The people at the store promptly called police.
Wait, this is one of the ones with the little accessible thing on it?
Yeah, it's the little carts. Yeah, the motorized cart. Yeah, he stole one of the motorized carts, and he was driving it home. And the Piggly Wiggly people called the officers, and they said, here's a description of the man, and this is, and they said, yeah, we appreciate the description, but seriously, it's a scooter. It goes like 2 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We can walk and catch up with him. And that's actually what they did. They walked a couple of blocks and they found him. So he doesn't go that fast.
I wanted to hear pit maneuver.
Well, yeah. It's funny you say that.
Give it a nice little tap
Yeah.
and it's
See, I've told you that it is one of my lifelong dreams to either steal one of those things or to show up with a bunch of people with two of us dressed as race car drivers and hold an impromptu race around the grocery store.
Oh, now that could work right
Yeah.
there. What's the crime, by the way? I don't think there's a crime.
I don't know, but I'm sure I would be arrested. And that's not the first time.
But for what?
Yeah.
That's just it. If there's no crime, what are they arresting you for?
I don't know.
They say, hey, you have to leave the store, and you do. There's
Yeah.
no trespass.
That's a good
There's
point.
no theft of property. You haven't
Yeah.
converted anything. I don't know. I feel like this could happen.
I feel
Maybe
like
we
you're
could make it a
encouraging me.
7-10 event. Yes,
I
of
feel
course
like-
I am encouraging you. This is the Billy Crystal. What's the difference between
Yes.
the class comedian and the class clown?
Exactly.
The class clown's the guy that goes streaking across the field with, clothespins
Yes.
on his nipples at
Yeah.
homecoming. Class comedian's the guy that told him to do it. That's
Exactly.
me for you. I'm
Yes,
trying to
I
get you to do
appreciate
it.
you. I feel like you're encouraging my dream. I like this.
Please
I
do
love
it.
the support.
And
All
you're
right.
nowhere near 66, but
Oh,
I
thank you.
digress.
All righty. Second choice. 2 is better than 1, says the rich people. Sorry.
2 is better than 1, says the rich
The
people.
rich
I've heard
people
it.
say 2 is better than 1, especially if you're talking about home appliances. Yes, the latest trend in home appliances is not 1, but 2 dishwashers. Back in my day, it was called having 2 kids. But now we do it by machine. An online influencer talks about how she spent over $1,000 on 2 different dishwashers, and now it has changed her life. She said, before, my counters and sinks used to be full of dirty dishes. Now we just have 1 dishwasher that is clean and 1 dishwasher that is dirty. And now look, it's all clean. No, you're just lazy. You're not unloading the dishwasher and you're a moron. Final choice, sir. We're ignoring the real risk, or Neil says I'm going to be late.
Ignoring the real risk.
We are ignoring the real risk. We're talking about AI and the computers taking over, and we are ignoring the real risk. And this comes to us from South Korea recently at a South Korean packing facility. They have robots that pick up boxes and put them onto a conveyor belt. Well, the robot glitched, identified one of the human workers as a box, picked him up, tried to put him on the conveyor belt, and killed him. Yes.
What?
Yes.
Wait,
yes.
what?
The robot at the warehouse that picks up boxes and puts them on a conveyor belt identified a human as a box, put him on the conveyor belt, and crushed him.
No.
Now, here's the thing. Look at all the technology around you.
This-
We keep saying that the technology is going to take our jobs. It's going to kill you.
This was the scene
machines
out of
will
the
kill you.
Terminator.
Yes.
I know this happened in Terminator.
Think about how many times the technology around you glitches. We're getting into a situation when that glitch is
And
going to
I'm
be
sure
death.
it was an accident. I'm
I
sure the
am
other
sure.
robots are all looking at each
Yes.
other, wink, wink, nudge,
Yeah.
nudge, like,
oh, that's
oh,
sucks.
I thought you were a box.
yeah.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Hey, listen, stick around. We're going to come back 7 o'clock hour, just as insane as the first. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's hour 2:04. We get replaced at 10 by Charlie Kirk. Have a little sound we might play from Charlie's show yesterday for a conversation piece. At 11, of course, Dennis Prager, and then Seb Gorka from 1 to 3. 3 to 4, we go live and local with our buddy Jimmy Sengenberger, all E's in between those consonants. And then from 4 to 7, Brandon Tatum. He was a police officer for many, many months. I think 36 perhaps months in a row. And he has a heck of a show, man. I only get to hear little snippets when I'm in the car going from here to there, but I like what I hear. I mean, the guy speaks a lot of common sensey stuff. He just does it in a way that's very different from what we normally get on Salem. So I'm interested, and you should be listening to, and then chiming in with what you think about that show as well. A couple updates on some things. Remember we told you about the doctor, Dr. Kim? Couple things that someone reminded me of. That's our friend Alexa, and also something I got a text on from someone in the know. First off, remember that Dr. Kim doesn't call 911 for 5 hours after his quote unquote patient is in significant distress, heart stops, and all that other stuff. That tells you son of a bitch. That there's no other explanation for that. That reminds me a lot of Brian EPB O'Connell, who I successfully prosecuted in Jeffco a while ago. He was a fake naturopathic doctor who almost killed a 17-year-old girl by injecting her with garbage blood that he took out of her body, ran through a black light you can buy at Home Depot, put a little B12 in it, and then put it back into her, probably with an air bubble, and then did not know how to do CPR. She ended up like vomiting in his mouth, and he walked around in a daze while his staff was like, maybe we'll just call 911. Maybe we'll just get it done. It reminds me of that kind of stuff. That's also, by the way, remarkably different from the paramedics, in my opinion. They didn't wait 5 hours to do anything. What they did was wrong. It was medically dumb and it resulted in death. But does that make it a crime? And if so, is that the new standard the AG's office is going to set moving forward for doctors that engage in malpractice? My guess is they should set up their own, is it malpractice or murder, a unit inside the AG's office so they can review every one of these medical mistake deaths, because that's the direction they're heading with these prosecutions of these paramedics. Nonetheless, I also heard from someone in the know that no, the DA's office did not agree to that ridiculous 15-day sentence. Instead, they asked for 3 years. Not sure how a judge deals with a guy who knows better, callously waited 5 years to call for help. And who knows what could have been done had they called for help right away, or had he actually done something like artificial respiration, CPR, or anything else. I just don't know the answer to that. I don't know the case well enough. But 15 days, there are repeat drunk drivers that get more than that. You drive drunk twice, you're probably going to get maybe a longer sentence than a dude who killed somebody else who knows better. Yep, convicted felon. Yeah, probably shouldn't be practicing medicine ever again. But it seems like even had he been given the max 3-year sentence for a non-crime of violence in the state of Colorado under our ridiculously soft sentencing laws, guy would end up serving a cup of coffee in prison before they transition him out into a halfway house. But still, it would be prison, and that would be something. I'd be interested to know what the family asked for. I'm sure they're devastated. But that's the other thing too, and I don't want to turn this into vigilantism, but I know how I feel. Had this guy done something like that to my daughter, and let's be honest, I'm not sending any of my kids in to get plastic surgery for their 18th birthday, and I'm not judging parents for that. I'm just saying it's a different situation. Had a doctor done something like that and it resulted in the death of one of my kids, there is going to be a trial, but it's going to be my trial. We're not going to have to worry about what sentence that clown is going to get, because I'm telling you, I know how I feel about this. Now, I'm sure this will end up being an exhibit in that trial where they'll be like, in advance, he talked about if somebody harmed his kids, he would do great harm to them. It's true. You should go ahead and book this podcast. It can be an exhibit in the trial, because that's just the parent that I am. Anyway, so I wanted to update you on that. DA's office asked for 3 years. The judge in the case, Judge Jones, perhaps, gave 15 days. Okay, 15 days, and that's it. And I presume, by the way, with jail, even in Arapahoe County, there's going to be some measure of good time. So 15 probably spends more like 14, maybe 13. I don't know. And I'm sure there's going to be some request for, can I get work release so I can go out there and do great work on behalf of the community or some other garbage. And someone's texting in here right now, what would you do? I'm not really sure what it looks like. If you're looking for a plan, I haven't mapped it out yet, but I'd be willing to. If you ever saw that Gerard Butler, Jamie Foxx movie, what was it? Something Citizen, Upstanding Citizen or something like that. Oh, buddy, this is a hell of a vigilante movie. This guy's family is attacked, sexually assaulted, and I think and killed in front of him. And years go by, and he ends up plotting the revenge against these guys and the system, by the way. And it ends up becoming a little far-fetched, but when he catches the bad guys, oh, buddy, brutal. I don't need to go through the details, but brutal. Nonetheless, that was that update. Another update. I finished going through the Tina Peters lawsuit. I'm writing a column on it now. It's a tardy column, and I'm sorry, Dan Yegamir, but it is. It is clear to me that this is a desperate attempt to try to distract away from that train coming down the tracks heading for Tina Peters in February when her trial gets underway. Now, the attorneys that are representing her, interesting. I looked up the local guy. He's been practicing law for 50 years. I mean, since like 73, legitimately since 1973. That's a lot of experience. I don't know what he's been doing during those 50 years. That's a lot of experience, but 50 years tell me Kat's 75 plus years old. I don't know what it's like to be 75. So I don't know what kind of energy and he bringing to the case. But what I think is he's the vehicle for the pro hoc vice for this firm out of Virginia. And the firm out of Virginia is a firm that also, wait for it, joined in the failed lawsuit against Raffensperger down in Georgia to stop him from certifying the election. So there's a little bit of a common thread here. The election fraud, stolen election team is who's representing Tina Peters in this. The complaint itself offers really, in my opinion, not a single basis for it being filed. If there's a good faith basis, I can't find it. And I wonder ethically if this thing passes muster. Not sure. I should also point out that the lawsuit that they filed, not completely different from this in terms of the accusations, the really over-the-top hyperbolic language, stuff like that. That lawsuit against Raffensperger in Georgia was dismissed by the court in federal court 8 days after it was filed. I presume this is going to meet a similar fate. I just don't know about the pace. There isn't much substance in this lawsuit at all. In fact, the things that could be argued as legitimate defenses to her conduct are defenses that woulda, coulda, shoulda been raised and will be raised in the underlying criminal case against her. Those are issues that can be argued in state court, and why these guys and gals chose to go to district court in Colorado here to raise this, I think is just a flailing, desperate attempt to try to do something, but it's not going to work. And then I'm sure they're going to try to appeal this, and I presume the 10th Circuit will crush them as well, because it just seems so baseless. They attack Dan Rubenstein, Republican DA out of Mesa County, saying that his efforts to do this are malicious and that his interest is in just maintaining his power. That's crazy. I think the dude ran unopposed for DA at the same time that the presidential election took place in 2020 anyway. Writing a column on it, it just feels like this is, remember how we talk a lot about lawfare? This is lawfare. This is an attempt to bastardize the criminal justice system and, frankly, the court system in general into a tool to try to stop something legitimate from taking place. And I'm not saying the legitimate thing is convicting Tina Peters. That's up to a jury, okay? I'm saying talking about interfering with the function of the criminal justice system based on, we think they got it wrong. I mean, they spend pages saying the grand jury was wrong. There's no probable cause. It's like, okay, that's something you argue to the judge in the case where the indictment is. You don't go to federal court and go, they're doing it wrong over there. They say things like, well, there's a federal law that preempts the state law. That's an argument you make to the judge who's got the criminal case. You don't run to some other court and go, they're not doing it right. This is silliness. It's a waste of taxpayer money, by the way. This isn't a conservative approach to anything. It's a waste of taxpayer money. And I think it cheapens the court system. We're not alone in doing that, by the way. I think the way in which the AG has handled the investigation and prosecution of Elijah McClain's tragic death, I think that has been a giant waste of taxpayer money and time as well. And I think it cheapens the system, the way that they've gone about it. Makes it seem like it's just performance politics art. It's not anything that's like a search for the truth. And neither is this. So we'll see what happens, but I wanted to let you know I got through that. Now, there's something else that has taken place. Law-abiding citizen, that's the name of the movie. Thank you, Eric Manning, for that. You nailed it. Law-abiding citizen. It is not for the faint of heart, by the way. The first 20 or 30 minutes of that movie, intense. The rest of it gets a little far-fetched, but that's pretty intense. Gerard Butler is the aggrieved father, and oh my God, does he take out his grievance on the bad guys. Anyhow, the 4th Congressional District is open this coming election cycle. That's November of 2024, less than a year from now, because our current congressman, my congressman friend Ken Buck, has said, I'm not doing it anymore. And he gave some good reasons why he's not doing it anymore, legitimate reasons for him why he's not doing it anymore. So the expectation is that there's going to be, I'm making this up, but it's an expectation I've heard repeated by a lot of people smarter than I am, 10 to 12 people in this race. We know that some of the folks, even one who used to be on the radio show here, is in the race. We know that there are legislators who I talked to as recently as yesterday on the show. They're contemplating, I presume, going to jump in the race. Former legislators going to jump in the race. And as this thing develops, I promise you we're going to give each one of them we'll give each one of the legitimate candidates an opportunity to talk on the radio. And I think it's an important race. But when it comes to my analysis of whether or not to join in this race, I've told you it comes down to me a kind of a value proposition of what am I valuing more? Like, can I do more good out there than I can do here with the last few years of my 2 youngest kids in the house? Well, enter Chip Roy. Chip Roy is a big-time conservative House member from Texas. Chip had a moment on the floor yesterday, and if you haven't heard it, I want to play that for you. Billy, I can't remember if you said you put it on the screen, and I'm just so stupid. There it is. No, go ahead. Billy can play it.
One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.
Is he right? I mean, is Chip Roy right? Because, man, he's kind of speaking to my heart right now. And that's the worry I have. And I have expressed this to other politicos out there who have encouraged me, flatteringly so, to jump into this race. And that is, does it even make a damn bit of difference? I mean, who cares? Plug a Republican in there. And yes, a Republican has to be in there because we can't let the Dems get control of the House, because God knows what they'll do when they have control of the House again. And what if they maintain the Senate? And oh my gosh, what if somehow they figure out a way to elect President Biden again? So yes, we need a Republican in there, but does it matter? Does being in Congress matter anymore? When you hear someone is a congressman, do you think, oh, that person is extra smart or extra accomplished? Or do you think that's just some political fool who's pissing away time they should be spending at home with their families? I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, Jason Crow has small kids. This isn't a knock on Jason Crow as a person. Let me be clear. Jason Crow is a patriot. Dude's a paratrooper. He was with the 82nd Airborne. Guy has served at a time of war in places where people want to kill you. So this is not a knock on Jason Crow. And I applaud him for that. I respect the hell out of him for that. We disagree on a whole bunch of policy things and decisions he's made. But that guy's got small kids. Why does he do it? Michael Bennett, why does he do it? Now, he can afford to have his family out there. But listen, I guess my question to you, and I want to know, 303-696-1971, if someone showed up to your door tomorrow and said, signed, sealed, and delivered, you can be our next congressman or congresswoman from your district. It's going to happen. Do you do it? And if you do it, why? What is it you are going to accomplish in Congress? Because I sit here right now looking at this opportunity at CD4 and I ask myself, what's the bang for the buck? I mean, I'm going to hop on a plane a billion times. I'm going to fly back and forth. Maybe I get my mug on TV a couple times. I say some things, but what in the world are you accomplishing? I mean, Chip Roy's the real deal when it comes to conservatives and Republicans and Texans and all that other stuff. And Chip Roy makes it pretty clear he feels like his time has been wasted.
One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.
So as you sit out there contemplating this, and some texts have been coming in too, maybe you can answer Chip's question for him. What's the one thing that this House majority, this Republican majority, has accomplished since winning back the majority from Pelosi and the Dems? I mean, one of the answers could be Chip's right. We're just not as bad as the Dems. Okay, I don't care about that answer because I agree with you there. Tell me, what's the one thing the House has done under a Republican majority? And by the way, I don't want the alternative. I'm just telling you that I'm concerned. Why in the world would you waste your time going there? So here's a text. Oh, hell no. This is the question. If they showed up to your house tomorrow and said, you could be a congressperson, someone texts in, oh, hell no. To what end? Ego? Great question. And I got buckets of ego, and I'd love to keep feeding that thing. Texter, good friend, and a guy who woulda, coulda run for that office says, crickets. That's right, man. Crickets. Why in the hell would you go to Congress at this point? There's not going to be a Jimmy Stewart moment. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Those days are dead and gone. Why in the world would you want to waste your time going to the House of Representatives if you have an alternative? I mean, granted, if someone said you can be homeless or be in Congress, it's a tougher call. Or you can be in prison or be in Congress, tougher call. But you could be with your family. You could be in your community. You could see your friends. You could actually do something. Even maybe make some money off of the federal taxpayer, not even from federal taxpayer money. What's the reason you would do it? What do you think you would accomplish? 303-696-1971. Here's another example. Here's a guy, by the way, who's figured it out. Mitch Floria. I would love to see Mitch Floria in Congress because this is a guy who gets it. From growing up under communist-controlled Romania under Ceausescu to lawfully immigrating to the United States to starting a business and a success. This is the guy you want in Congress, right? Because he's been there, done that. He gets it. It's not a book he read or some protest he participated in. This guy's been living the American dream and succeeding at it. I'd love to see that guy in Congress. And yet I'm pretty certain Mitch would say, why in the world would I give up this business where I make people happy? Nobody's unhappy to see me because they know when I show up, I'm making their kitchen more beautiful with the countertops or their bathroom or the finished basement. I put a smile on their face because I tell them I'm giving you wholesale prices because I don't need to gouge you. I have great clients. In fact, if you're a 710 listener, I'll throw in the kitchen sink with the kitchen countertop package, or I'll go big. You want to go 2 rooms? I'll throw in the bathroom countertop package with the bathroom countertop with the kitchen countertop package. And you get to make people happy, and you get to earn money. You get to hire people. You get to make a difference here in America. I mean, but that's the kind of guy I want in Congress. Who in the world, like a Mitch Floria or someone else, is going to run for Congress? There are good people out there who are saying no. And we should ask them, why are you saying no? I'll bet you it's because of things like Chip Roy. All you got to do is to call Mitch Floria. You can check him out, by the way, at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. You can give him a call at 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. I trust Mitch with all the countertop stuff. You should too. We've got calls here on the line, Brian and others, a bunch of texts. Let me do this. Let me cut away for a break. We'll come back, and then we'll do the calls. We'll do the texts. We'll keep the conversation going. Is Congress even relevant anymore for you? Why? I don't know, man. I just keep asking it. Why in the world would you waste any portion of your limited life on this planet going to the circus to be another clown? But it's a sad circus where when the people leave the big tent, they're poorer, they're more unhappy, they're less safe, and they don't think they like the circus anymore. 303-696-1971. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, talking about, are you playing that thing, Billy? Sorry about that. That's all right. We're jibber jabbering. This is Chip Roy, I think yesterday on the floor of the House, expressing a sentiment that I have had kicking around my head and my heart the whole time I have contemplated this fourth CD thing. And really, I guess every single candidate we get on here, if we end up going down that road, I want to ask him this question. Why are you wasting your life pursuing a spot in a legislative body that does nothing?
One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.
This is a two-part question, folks, at 303-696-1971. One, answer the question. What have they done? They've been in power now over 10 months, Republicans. They've had the majority in the House. What the hell have they done? What's that thing you go back and go, thank God we took over the majority from Nancy Pelosi because we were able to, we went through a speaker or two and we held some speaker stuff, but we're really going to tear it up in 2024. We're going to, what? What are they going to do? And by the way, I don't expect that this is a partisan conversation, but it feels like it for the moment because the Republicans have the House and they've done nothing with it. So why would you run to be part of that circus? 303-696-1971 is our number. Some of the texts here. Chip Roy and the Freedom Caucus is the barrier to any Republican accomplishment, just as the Tea Party did. I don't know. Our buddy Eric. George, one good thing for Chip Roy the Republicans Congress do is getting rid of Nancy Pelosi. It's cute. It's clever. Maybe it's true because we won the majority, but what does that mean? And only got rid of her as the speaker. She's still in the House. But what does that mean? What did that accomplish? And it sounds like that's the last part of what Chip Roy said was, is that our only thing we've done is we're just less bad than the Democrats? And that's true. When you replace Nancy Pelosi, of course, you make it less bad. Here's another text regarding Congress. All you need is a good letter opener to vote, i.e. Sam Zackham. The only reason to go to Congress is to make your family super rich. Although I don't think Ken Buck's family is super rich. Frankly, I think if Ken were super rich, he'd have left a while ago. I just think that's part of it. But I don't think he's super rich. 303-696-1971. Perhaps get invited to a musical with Lauren Boebert or take MTG's CrossFit class. Here's another one. No way, not worth it. Opposite view, yes, it matters. We don't need more clowns embarrassing and denigrating the Republican Party. Brian from Arvada, you're on 710. Brian, what do you think? Congressman Brian from Arvada, what do you think?
Hey, George. You know, I used to think you should run for office.
That sounds real past tense.
Yeah, it is. It is because, I really feel that after your interview with Ken, it wasn't even an interview, your conversation with CNN Ken was that you're going to be a retread of him. And he's getting out because he's not electable, because he's turned his back on us. And
who's us? Who's us, Kemosabe?
Here's some examples, just of the American people. Because when
how
you
did
praise
he do that?
I'll go line by line item, George. You praise the FBI instead of holding them accountable for the whole Hunter Biden laptop 5 years. We don't have anybody charged for the Hillary Clinton, not holding them responsible for Hillary Clinton destroying laptops and BlackBerries. And
Trump let that one go.
And then allowing the whole Russia collusion thing to go down the pipeline, which was a total
How
joke.
did Buck let that happen?
Well, he didn't let it happen. He didn't hold them accountable for letting it happen.
Remember,
and he sat there and praised them for all
Brian,
their
remember
hard
that
work.
Ken's born of his experience like any of us are. The guy was an assistant U.S. attorney who put bad guys in prison with the help of the FBI. So please, you're going to have to forgive him if his view of the FBI isn't as some monolithic political organization that exists to do the bidding of the Dems. He's actually worked with the trench fighters that help keep the terrorists, drug dealers, and other bad people in prison. That doesn't
did he
shock
mention
me.
one thing about the stuff that they're doing nefariously behind the scenes? No. Number two, he goes on all these other liberal talk shows, avoids the conservative talk shows except for you because he knows you're not going to ask him any tough questions and you guys are going to yuck it up and hate Trump and all the other conspiracy theories.
I didn't yuck it up with him about anything to do with hating Trump.
I heard the whole thing, George.
I know. Well,
you didn't ask him any really tough questions.
Hang on, but your point was I'm yucking it up with him about hating Trump. I've never said such things. But here's the deal. If you think the hard questions are, Ken, why don't you call the FBI out for being this monolithic conspiratorial organization that's trying to undermine all of America? What the hell kind of answer do you think you're going to get? I mean, how is that a helpful question?
It's not extreme that way, George, but not even holding them accountable at all about it. Not even asking them a question about it at all. I'm not saying to call them a monolithic thing, not even ask them a darn question about it.
Sure. So
that's the problem, Ken. And that's the problem I think you would have, George, is the same problem Ken's going to have getting reelected. And that's why he's
buddy,
leaving,
let's be clear. Dude gets reelected in a walk-off. I know everybody thinks, oh, now he's done it. Now he's stepped in it. He'll be challenged. Even if the guy had to petition on, he doesn't get defeated. It's just not going to happen.
Well, we can disagree on that.
Well, I know I'm only going off of my personal experience, but nonetheless, the bigger question is, would you go to Congress there, Congressman Brian? Would you, and why? What have they accomplished in their 10 months in power?
Well, nothing. And that's the problem.
Nothing.
Getting rid of McCarthy was the only thing they've accomplished because he was going to do the exact same thing that all the other, what we didn't want. He was not going to do separate appropriation bills.
Did you get the speaker that you wanted?
I don't think we ever will because they all sell out, George.
Well, but who's the speaker you want then? Maybe that's the bigger question.
I think Jim Jordan would have made the biggest impact towards the conservative movement and fiscal conservatives we've ever seen. And guess what? They didn't vote for him. Ken Buck wouldn't vote for him.
Yeah, but Buck wasn't alone, by the way, in not voting for him. There were
and then there's another
of
example of what Ken Buck did against the American people. He wouldn't vote for Jim Jordan. So you see what I'm saying?
So every Republican in the House that didn't vote for Jim Jordan's got to go.
No, but they didn't do us a service because now what did we do? We just pushed the debt thing down the bucket again. So
now hold on,
we
got an incredibly conservative Speaker of the House, and we ended up with a Band-Aid continuing resolution that I can't imagine McCarthy could have come up with a worse one. It did nothing.
McCarthy worked with the Democrats to get that other appropriations bill.
So you like this one better? You like this one better?
I don't like any of them, George. And that's why I don't like any of them. And I don't think you would do anything differently either.
Wait, I got to, we got to talk about this in a second here. Just for perspective, the Democrat vote is the reason the bill passed in the House. It wasn't because of the Republican votes for Johnson's bill. It was because of Democrats. So with respect, Brian, when you say McCarthy worked with the Democrats, Johnson's bill proposal would not have passed without for the Democrat votes. Almost half the Republican caucus voted against it. So Johnson then, by your definition, would also be working with the Dems. I'm going to sit back in my corner now.
I don't like Johnson. Well, I don't like any of them.
Listen, Jim Jordan was not going to get. Hold on, Jim Jordan was not going to get a single thing passed in the House. Not a thing. Dude doesn't have a bill to his name that he's passed. Can you name one?
And well, no. And guess what? Even if it got passed, it's just a talking point. It's never going to be brought to the floor in the Senate.
Maybe, but
so we have to bring that to attention. So all the stuff we ever were going to pass was going to be symbolic, George. That's it.
So, but that symbolism matters.
I don't think you're going to be any different. Oh, definitely, because you have a talking point at that point. Yeah. So, like, here's our bills. You guys won't bring them up.
So would you run, Brian? Point. Would you sacrifice time at home and with your job or whatever it is you do to go serve in Congress? And if so, what do you think you'd accomplish out there?
I don't think I'd accomplish anything because our party's divided because of people like you and people
wait. People like me. Why isn't it people like you?
Well, I stand for principles. I don't sell out like Ken Buck.
Same. But what principles has he sold out?
I just named him, George.
You didn't. You said he doesn't go after the FBI. That's not a principle. Holy crap! That guy may be the most fiscally conservative member of the United States House.
Who?
Also a Tea Party guy.
Who? Ken Buck?
Yes, that's right.
Who voted for the last appropriations bill that gave the Democrats everything they wanted?
No,
that guy.
No, it didn't give them everything that they wanted for sure. But that guy is a fiscal hawk.
He hasn't been in his last few votes, George. And fiscal hawk doesn't mean you don't side with the Democrats. It means a fiscal hawk means you do what's right for the country and stop putting us in debt. He hasn't stood up for debt.
Well, hang on.
In the last few votes that he's taken.
I want my congressperson to do what's best for the district I live in. And I don't give a damn what the impact on other parts of the country is. I don't send them there to give a crap about anybody else. I send them there to give a crap about me and my family. Now, if you think that they need to bend a knee to some bigger purpose, buddy, I'm telling you, man, this idea that I'm the problem or folks like me are the problem because we're dividing the party. What party are you talking about?
Part of the problem. You're not the whole problem.
We have never been who you want us to be, ever. And if we were, we would be a minority party in perpetuity.
We've lost for 10 or 15 years because of the similar people like you in our party.
Hold on.
In this state.
Are we winning now?
We haven't had the leadership. We haven't had different leadership. So we got massacred in the last election.
Why?
I mean, prior to this.
Why?
Because the Republicans didn't reach out. Their ground game was weak. KBB failed. There's a lot of reasons why. You guys alienated whatever conspiracy
what's
theorists.
This you guys?
George, there's so many things wrong with the state party that, I get pushed to a conspiratory because I want free and fair elections. I don't have proof anything happened. I'm not an election denier, but I get alienated by people like you and Ken.
What do you mean by people like me? How do you get alienated? I let
in,
you talk on the radio all the time.
You do, but you call the people that are like me crazy. We have to say the election was fair, or we're thrown in with all the crazies that say it wasn't.
No, that is a complete mischaracterization. Here's the problem, man, is that you hear the things you want to hear so that you can cling to the conclusions you've already drawn before you hear it. And I get that, but I've never once said you're crazy for what you've said or you have to say these things. I've said I'm not going to buy off on a stolen election until somebody can prove it to me. And so far, ain't nobody done that.
George, do you think McCarthy was a good speaker?
I thought he was ineffective. I thought he was ineffective.
Do you think he was a good speaker? Would you have voted for him if you were down there?
I don't think so, no. But I don't know what the alternatives were. But I wouldn't have voted. Hold on, but I wouldn't have voted for Jim Jordan either. That guy's completely ineffective either. The guy is a bomb thrower. Putting him in the speaker's position would only give him a higher platform to throw bombs. He would have accomplished nothing. He would have passed no legislation. He would have worked on no consensus. He would have advanced the conservative cause 1 millimeter to the back. He wouldn't have done. What does a Jim Jordan speakership look like today if it existed? What's the status of the funding of the government today with Jim Jordan as the speaker, Brian?
I think he might have shut it down, and I think he would have
terrific.
For
terrific.
And I think
when I reach out to my buddies who are serving in uniform, what do I tell them? Hey, everybody, Jim Jordan's a great speaker. You don't get paid this month.
But you say, and not because of me, because here's our individual appropriations bill funding the military, and the Democrats aren't funding you.
There we go. So now we have a talking point while these guys don't get paid. Good point.
Well, it's better than getting them
is
paid,
it?
And then
and
then giving the Dems and then having nothing to talk about.
Oh, so now it's the same outcome, but we have something to talk about, and that's why you go to Congress.
They're not going to pass what we put on the table anyway. So I'm saying you have to be a politician, not a sellout. You have to say, look,
hold
they're
on.
the ones not getting you guys paid.
Disagreeing with you and your perception of what conservatism is not selling out. Okay, that is a cheap comment to make to try to dismiss somebody who disagrees with you. I will stack my principles against yours all day long.
Going into debt, George, for my grandchildren is selling out to make it just so.
It sounds like you're pissed at Donald Trump.
Then
it sounds like your real argument is with Donald Trump, who blew up the national debt. You must really hate him.
Right, and Biden's doing even a worse job. So I don't like anybody that's blown up the debt and that's not doing individual appropriations bills. Someone's got to stand up, George. Someone has to stand up finally and say enough's enough. And
Brian,
you're not the person. Ken's not the person. I don't know who the person is.
Yeah, I think the broader point is
right now in the Republican Party.
Brian, I got to let you go. I think the broader point is there is no person, and it's because a person in Congress can do nothing. This Congress, as so many before it have been, is completely dysfunctional and worthless. They've accomplished nothing. That's not me saying it. That's Chip Roy saying it. And nobody here has called in to tell me what great thing they've done or texted to tell me what great thing they've done in 10 months. They've done nothing. It's a waste of time and effort. Why would you do it? And what do you think you'd accomplish? And if the answer is Brian's, which is, well, we'd have a talking point. Okay. That seems worth sacrificing family for. Going out there to create talking points. 303-696-1970 was the number. Got to tell you about Brent and Joyce Tolliver. They do roll them out shelves. That's that organization out there, that company. And again, I love these folks because they see a problem and they fix it in the private sector. It's not the good idea fairy that shows up to the government and says, we'll figure out how to do this. They look at a kitchen. They say, here's all this wasted cabinet space. You jam stuff back in there and get on your hands and knees to look for it or forget that you have it. How about make it all usable and efficient? Increase the quality of life, increase your enjoyment of your bathroom, your kitchen, your laundry room. And I didn't realize this, but they do this to your garage. All 5-star reviews. You just can't do better than that unless they add a 6th star to it, and they haven't. You can call them, have them come out to your house. And if you do, and you sign up with them, get this, first 4 installed roll them out shelves, 4 FREE free. That's an $80 value. You'll see firsthand what they can do and why people rave about them. Call them at 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601, or you can check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. There's hyphens in between the words, and M is EM, rollemoutshelves.com. When we come back, full lines, by the way, we'll continue to work through this topic. Joan, you're up next. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. We're going to get to the phone lines here in just 1 second. I just got to tell you, if you're thinking about this weekend getting outside before it gets chilly on Sunday and Monday, you might be thinking, man, you know what? My limitations are from pain, from inflammation, from the fact that I'm just not sure everything's working the way it should. There is an all-natural response to this thing, and it is our friends at UltraCur. You can go to getultranow.com. Check it out. It's this curcumin-based, all-natural product. It's patented. The studies that they've done show that 50% of every single person that tries this thing experiences relief, pain relief, within 48 hours, and half of that group within 2 hours. All you've got to do to try it out and see if it works for you is to go to your natural grocers, check in with the vitamin manager. Got to go to the vitamin manager. They won't just leave this stuff out on the shelves. One person like me would take it all, and I have taken it, so has Billy. And it works for us. You ought to give it a shot. Go to your natural grocers, vitamin manager, 3-day supply, and then let us know how it goes. Check them out at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Going to the phone lines, Joan, you're on 710. Joan, what do you think?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, and I'm here too. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts. I would not go to Congress.
Why not?
Because I've run for office 3 times, and it's obvious that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And because you talk about Jim Jordan being a bomb thrower, and I, to a certain extent, have the reputation of being a bomb thrower.
No.
Yes,
that is, Joan, that's
true.
crazy talk.
No, I come in on this, and I throw bombs at you on a regular basis.
No, what?
Um,
Is this Joan from Lakewood?
Yes, it is.
Do you think
Anyway.
anybody can accomplish? Listen, I'm telling you right now, at 8:30, a wicked smart guy, way younger than I am, his name is Jeff Hunt. He's going to take over for me. Can a Congressman Jeff Hunt make a difference?
You know, I've been asking myself this question since you brought this up. Did I make a difference by getting people to go out and vote against HH? Because now it's in a special session, and will anything change, and will they get what they're supposed to be wanting? Will they still grab my paper, surplus
Joan.
money, and back bill?
Joan, would you do me a favor? We have simply run out of time. Do me a favor. Hang on. I promise I'll get to you and Michael and Jake and everyone else calling. Can you just hang around for a minute?
Yep.
Light that bomb, Joan. Light it. Stick around. We're going to have the conversation. Does Congress even matter anymore? 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Hey, welcome back to the halfway point in the George Show on 710 KNUS. That's me, George. The show is named after me for reasons I can't really explain. I'm going to only be with you through this first segment, and then I'm going to hand it off to a dude who is hitting his stride. He is in his prime. He runs all things CCU. I made that up. He's also a guy who, man, I can't wait until you're able to talk about your service piece of this thing. His name is Jeff Hunt, and we'd like him to go to Congress. Jeff?
I am not going to go to Congress, but I definitely believe that the field would clear out if George Brauchler got in.
I don't know about that. Hey, listen, I want you to be on this conversation because you're going to take over. But I played that clip from Chip Roy. You've heard it a couple times. You said you were listening driving in, which is a real concern. But you listen in. Is he wrong?
So you have to understand, Congress is about delivering product for special interest groups. That's what it does. Okay. It's
sad.
So
that's sad.
Once you understand that, it makes sense. So people that hire lobbyists to go tinker with the government so that their businesses can get special privileges. That's what Congress does. So if you look at it from the people's perspective, you're like, you don't do anything for us all day. It's a total waste of time. What are we doing sending you there? You're just making things worse. If you look at it from, the lobbyist perspective, they're achieving a whole bunch of stuff. Look at the subsidies for windmills, for instance, right?
On a
they're making a
level,
ton of money.
And I think some of this is sarcasm. A lot of it is. But on a personal level, why sacrifice anything in your life to be part of that mess?
Especially if you have young children. I wrote about this on my blog. It's a family destroyer. We've seen that happen in Colorado. Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter. It just destroys your family.
By the way, you are in the fourth.
I am in the fourth. Yep.
Just
There's
saying.
not a chance I'm running for this. Not a chance. But you've seen how it just breaks down families. So you got to be like, okay, I'm going to give that a gamble that, or the one idea is you just move your entire family there. I think,
which also sucks too, because you
your
want
kids.
Yeah. I mean,
but see, so I'm going to go back to the Bill Armstrong days. I was hired by Bill Armstrong to work at CCU. Got a brilliant 8 months to be able to work for him. Back then, everyone moved their families there. And so this had a big impact, right? Your kids are playing t-ball with your opponent's kids. You're spending your Saturdays sitting on the field, and it built some collegiality between the parties because you guys were living in the same neighborhoods. That's gone. And so unless you're going to move your kids there and deal with all the political fallout of that, don't do that. But listen, the people that can make DC work for the people, which is ultimately what we want, are the types of people that can work through a giant bureaucracy that is there to deliver special interests. And so if you just show up in DC, you're like, I won an election. Yay, put me in.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what do I do now? If you got to have statesmanship when it comes to being able to move an agenda through an institution that doesn't really care about you. That's not easy. I think George Brauchler could do that.
303-686-1971. We told Joan we'd put her back on. Michael, you call back in. We'll get you back on. Joan, you're on 710 KNUS. Joan, what do you think?
I think that he's right. It is.
There you go.
By the way. And that is the other part that is hard. And I think Ken Buck might be able to say, yes, it kind of destroyed my family. I think that it's important that we try and figure out exactly what we're trying to do and accomplish. I'm looking at the previewed bills that they put out for this special session. And
you're talking about at the state level.
At the state level.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what's going to get accomplished with this special session for the Republicans as well.
Well, Joan, that's a great point. And frankly, Jeff is Johnny on the spot here. When he takes over, he's going to have a wicked smart dude come on and talk about this very issue.
Ben Murrey from Independence Institute, who's been
smart,
helping lead this fight, because we're going to war today. Okay, if you don't understand what's happening at the state capitol today, we're going to war over this Proposition HH, because the Democrats, well, they got just destroyed in the election are literally bringing back the same ideas and they're going to try to ram it through.
This is the oil and gas setbacks part 2. It's like
Prop 112 all over again.
It's like I told Billy yesterday, and Joan, it feels this way to me. It's like your kid coming to you and saying, hey, Dad, can I move my curfew from 10 to 11? You say no, and then they show up at 11:30. You know, like, well, thought I'd get permission, but nonetheless, I did it anyway. I mean, these people are only going to us as the first step towards the broader goal of we're going to do it anyway. We'd love to get your permission.
And you may go, gosh, Democrats are idiots on this stuff. That's actually not the case. They're smart enough to go, we're going to not pay a single electoral consequence for this.
Nope.
We're going to get it done our way, just like we did with oil and gas. And the media, they'll give us by Thanksgiving. No one's even going to remember this.
And they might be right. And Joan, that was the other part I was going to say is these Republicans here, as opposed to the ones in Congress, they're in an extreme minority. I mean, I think you can fit every Republican in the state house in a phone booth. In Congress, they have the majority. Yep. And I think that's what makes Chip Roy's comments so angry and emotional is he's like, listen, we are in charge. We have the majority. We can't do anything. At least the folks that we send, you know, the Kirkmeyers and Puglisi's and the rest, they're expected to lose because they just don't have the numbers yet.
Well, all I can say is my one expectation is they do not touch the Tabor surplus.
Yeah, you're going to be disappointed.
Backfill.
You are going to be disappointed, Joan.
Well, there you go. And if that's not a talking point, I don't know what is.
Joan, and it is, but it won't matter. And that's Jeff's point, is that they feel like they have impunity on this. And we've proven them correct, cycle in and cycle out over the last however many years. Joan, thanks for the phone call. Have a great weekend. Joan's number 303-696-1971. My favorite part of the aftermath of the ass whooping that took place at the polls is the spin that these Dems are now putting on it. Like, well, we can't know why people voted against HH. I mean, it was a 48-page monstrosity with multiple issues. Yeah. We don't know why, even though every single penny I saw spent for and against was about Tabor. They're like, who can say it's about Tabor? That's crazy. We didn't even put the word Tabor in the bill. That's the silliest, stupidest argument I think I've heard this cycle.
It's because they can't come to terms with the fact that we're going to continue to defend Tabor. I've often said that Scott Wasserman has the worst job in all of Colorado, right? Because Scott Wasserman runs Bell Policy Center. We're a completely leftist state in every social capacity. Democrats have supermajority, and yet the one thing they can't touch is Tabor.
That's right.
And poor
it's kryptonite for them.
Scott's got to sit there and be like the guy who can't achieve the ultimate end that he wants to, even though they control everything. Could you imagine being that guy?
No.
Imagine me, the big social conservative dude in Colorado, with Republicans controlling everything, constantly winning in the polls, and yet I can't get my agenda.
That's
passed,
it.
Right?
That maybe they need to change up the head of the thing. I don't understand why he is so ineffective. It's not him though. It's really Tabor.
It's the voters.
Folks get Tabor and they like their Tabor.
That's right. And thank God they do, because it's the one thing that's keeping us from collapsing into becoming California.
The tougher argument, I think, across the middle section of the electorate is why oppose the idea of equalizing all the Tabor refunds. But from a common sense standpoint, it's like, and I've seen some other lefties on social media say this too. This guy, I think his name is Jim or Joe, but now he goes by Javier Mabry. He says one of the most inequitable things about Tabor is that they give the largest refunds to the people with the most money. And I'm like, hang on, that's not actually how it goes. It's whoever pays the most gets the largest refund. That's actually the definition of equitable. I mean, that's how it works.
So imagine we bought a pizza. George, you and I went in and got a pizza. I paid 3/4 of the pizza. You paid for 1/4 of the pizza. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, no, don't I get 3/4 of the pizza? I mean, you know, the idea pay, right?
No, I get half, dude.
You?
Yeah, that's fair. There's two of us. There's one pizza. You divide it in half. Right. It doesn't matter who paid for it. Right. Yeah, it's crazy. But the part that you've said that is the truest, that is the most painful, is they can get away with it because voters just don't hold them accountable. Nobody shows up and says you lied to us again.
I mean, think about what they're walking into. It's the only thing would be better would be putting this on like Christmas Eve. So they're gonna do this the day before Thanksgiving break. My kids are off school all next week. You know, our minds are already shutting down. No one's gonna pay attention to 3 days of a special session on a tax issue. By the way, did you watch the full 9 News debate on Prop HH?
I did.
Good for you. I got through 10 minutes of it.
I watched the whole thing.
I'm a policy guy, and I was like, turned it off going, this is the most boring conversation ever. They're going to do this for 3 days during Thanksgiving break, and then all of a sudden they're going to do whatever they want. We're going to go right into Thanksgiving break, and no one's even going to care about it.
No, in fact, the other thing that's going to give them cover is today will be the day that Judge Wallace out of Denver issues her opinion on whether Trump gets to be on the ballot.
That's today?
Today. So that thing is going to end up dominating whatever limited news attention that there's being paid over the next weekend. So it's genius for them. I wonder if anybody will ever ask Tim Hernandez, who's now going to get to weigh in on Tabor. And I think Tim's probably going to offer an amendment like, is there any way we can give less refunds to Jews? Is there any way we can give more refunds to Hamas? And I don't even know how people identify themselves as tax-paying Hamas members, but he would try to do that.
Yeah.
And we won't even have a conversation like that. That dude will show up with his power to the Hamas people thing on his lapel, and we'll just move on. Nobody will cover it.
George, what's going to happen on this decision? What do you think is going to take place?
Well, we talked about this yesterday a bit, and if she's doing the right thing, in my opinion, and this is not a pro-Trump thing, this is a what the hell are we about to do thing.
Yeah.
She ought to deny it.
Right.
I mean, the guy in Michigan, the judge in Michigan came out and said, look, whatever the answer is here, I'm not going to provide the definition of insurrection and how it applies to keep a guy off of the ballot. One who's already been president and very likely will be the nominee for president again. That's not a me thing. That's a Congress thing. Congress, go do your damn job and figure out how you want to define this. Either way, it's going to be appealed, right? And so if she wants the attention, she can get it. She can be that first judge to say, I'm keeping Trump off the ballot.
I'm going to be applauded every time she walks into a cocktail party for the rest of her life. And she was the one that did it.
She will. And here's the great concern. And I've said in writing, I think she's smart, competent, ethical, and I think she's unbiased in this. But what she did in the 2 times she was up to bat to become a judge have got to give you some pause. When she was a final 3, the first time up before Jared Polis, before she heard whether he was going to pick her or not. So she's got to believe she's in the hunt, right?
Yeah.
She's final 3. She makes contributions to Jenna Griswold. Okay. Who's a party to this freaking case is Jenna Griswold. When she is appointed by Governor Polis, but awaiting to get sworn in because she gets appointed, she gets find out she's going to be the judge, and a couple months go by before she takes the judgeship. That's not that unusual. In that interim period of time, she writes a check to an organization who stands for the proposition that Republicans are responsible for an insurrection on January the 6th, and their stated political purpose is to defeat Republicans at the ballot box. She gave money to them. Now, her answer has been in writing, well, apparently I gave $100 to this organization. But it's like, what? No, apparently? No. And why are you writing checks during a period of time you're about to become apolitical, right? Like once you get sworn in, no judges do that anymore. You're getting fitted for the robe and you're scratching out checks to an organization that deals with a topic you're now being called upon. And she's like, well, I haven't made up my mind. It's like, are you the only judge in Denver? Could we not find someone else?
Are judges rewarded anymore for being neutral in the way things currently are, right?
I don't know what the reward would be other than just you get to continue in your current role, but nobody knows anything about our judges.
Right. So you get to continue just being the judge you are, or you get to become the celebrity. We're going to put you on Oprah. You're going to be writing a book for $1 million because you were the judge that took Trump off the ballot.
It could be. And she will be the first and she would become, and if that's your goal, this is the way to do it because it's going to be appealed either way and it's going to make its way to the Supreme Court is my guess. But that's the way to do it is you start today by saying, I'm going to find that it was this. What'd you say, Bill? Oh, I do see the phones. Hey, listen, I want to get to the phone call. Frank is on the phone here with a great question. I'm going to get to it as soon as I do this one little bit of business. And when we were talking about people who might do an awesome job in Congress, this guy right here, and this isn't even why he wants me to do the live read, but Daniel J. Kaplish. The J is for justice. No, it's not. I think it's actually Joseph. But Daniel J. Kaplish is a guy that I think could actually potentially make a difference even in this dysfunctional Congress. He's the kind of guy we need more of in there. And that's because he's principled. He's a fighter. He's also congenial, man. The guy, if the guy gets upset and loses his temper, I've never seen it. And I worked for him. And that scares me because when those kinds of people lose their temper, it's like my dad, you make a little pee-pee. Well, whatever anger Dan has, he focuses it on going to the courtroom and fighting for victims. If you have a righteous case, somebody's hurt you from their negligence or recklessness, sometimes intentional conduct, reach out to Dan and his partner, Babar Waheed. Give him a call at 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551. You can check him out at dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan Kaplis, Kaplis law.com. Hey, Frank, you're on 710 KNUS with Jeff and George. What do you think?
George, before you, the legal mind, leave, I would like your comment on a definition of what is injunctive relief and what's the other relief that the people can do against a move like this, as far as the Democratic Congress doing what they're doing and this judge trying to do what she's going to do it just because there's a culture among the left to try to do and take down whoever and whatever Trump represents to the country just for their own jollies. So we know it's going to go to the court, but what's the specific injunctive relief that would be the next step by the people?
Well, yeah, good question. So the injunction is what is, in essence, what is being sought by the folks that are trying to keep Trump off the ballot. They're trying to enjoin the Secretary of State from putting him up
for the injunction.
Well, so this is what's going to happen. I want to disagree with you here. I want this judge, and I expect this judge to do the right thing, and that is to rule against them and allow this to be appealed with Trump maintaining his ability to be on the ballot until an appellate court says otherwise. If she rules otherwise, there's no injunction against that ruling. Instead, when you appeal to the 10th, or not the 10th Circuit, when you appeal to the Court of Appeals or wherever this is going to go, you then seek a stay on that court's order. And that becomes, in essence, like the injunction against the effectiveness of that order. And then it keeps working its way up or down, the appellate ladder until it lands, I presume, in the United States Supreme Court's lap. But in terms of the judges piece, and I've talked about this a lot in writing and on the radio, we don't know our judges. My guess is, and this is no knock on you, Frank, you can't name 3 judges in the district you live in. I bet you the same is true for Jeff. And Jeff is very active. I can only because I'm in front of them and I've worked with them for years. But that's the weird thing about this. You can probably
like it that way.
Well, they do probably like it that way. And it would be okay if they didn't have so much power and have escaped so much scrutiny. And this is why I have on Dave Magoya from the Gazette all the time. This dude has done a great job journalistically of peeling back the onion on things that in decades past we would have never known about. And if we'd have heard about them, they'd have gotten a paragraph on page A1 billion and we'd have never heard about it again. This dude's on it. His reporting has made changes to the way that the judiciary, at least tries to govern itself and some of the laws that have been passed.
But that relative anonymity is why we, the people, at this time still hold the judiciary in such high esteem.
Yes, that's probably true.
By doing
You're
the right thing that we understand it to be by the law. Unfortunately, the more these political types deteriorate that, they're going to deteriorate the impression of the legal system.
I agree, Frank. And this is why it is so surprising that somebody, not who sought a judgeship, because my guess is everybody that sought a judgeship leans politically one way or the other, and maybe they've even supported a candidate. That's not the important part. The important part is when you're on the doorstep of the position, remaining politically active, because then you call into question your subsequent decisions on cases that have political overtones like this one. That piece seems to have been lost. And the disappointment I have for this judge is not in her smarts or ability to truly be fair. It's the ability to see that she has created an opportunity for people to question her judgment one way or the other. She should have just recused herself based on that conduct and let some other judge who didn't carry that Samsonite baggage with them to make the decision. Because now you and I talk about it like, what's wrong with the judges? They need more scrutiny.
One thing I wanted to compliment you on was you briefly revealed some of your thought processes a few moments ago about looking at this squarely and deciding in your position where you are now with your family and what difference, as Hillary would say, in the overall would it make if I, George, went to Washington? Would I make a difference? Would I move? I would vote for what you sort of said, that staying in your position with this unique thing you have here in this radio program, that to record all this stuff and all these interactions you've had, put together, compile a book a year or two in the future called The People Speak. I think you would be more effective with that, and you would also learn something from it. And maybe
I'm afraid I'd become an alcoholic or something. You know what I mean? Like I would, I would turn to the booze for the flights back. Like
that's an acceptable alternative for brief periods of time to retain your sanity.
Frank, have a great weekend, man. Thank you for that. Jeff, what do you think, man?
So go back to the Declaration of Independence. One of the complaints against the judges, and the reason we declared our independence, one of the reasons we declared our independence, he has made, this is King George, judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. When you lose that independent judiciary, when it becomes special interest driven, when it becomes, I'm going to score political points, I'm going to be welcomed in the cocktail parties, I'm going to, all that stuff, dude, you're playing around with the same stuff we declared independence over.
I think the problem here is less one of true substance than it is the perception. And I think that the judiciary has lost sight of the fact that the public's perception of its independence and its integrity is just as bad as if they really lost their independence and integrity. Because once you doubt the orders from the court, once you doubt that process, one, you stop going there. You start problem solving outside the court system. That's bad. That's bad.
Right?
Or whatever the outcome is, you just disrespect it, don't care. And all of a sudden we're now going to have a hyper political bench, or at least the perception of it. There needs to be a step back. And again, each of these people, and I've known folks that have been judges. I know 3 of the members of the Colorado Supreme Court because I've worked with or for them over the course of time. They are good human beings. They don't want to do wrong. They want to do right. They want to follow the law. That's not enough. You have to have the bigger picture.
Yeah. And you have to elevate that value of an independent judiciary in our culture, right? Why don't we support that? Instead, and part of this is what's happened at the U.S. Supreme Court too, where we use it to drive what should be a legislative agenda, right? Instead of driving that through Congress and having the debates there, we're like, well, I'll just take it to the Supreme Court. And because we have the power there, we'll get our outcome. We get our outcome. So, I don't mind that much. And then it switches, and we've got to pack the bench, and we've, all that stuff. So part of that
wasn't
down
always like that.
Right.
It wasn't like that. When we get to the Warren Court and all this other more active, we now granted them permission to be that way. And that was cool with the libs. That was cool as long as and now all of a sudden that the shoe's on the other foot, they're like, this is outrageous. I can't believe we're doing it. It's like, you did this, man. You created this. And so now, I can feel this with Roberts, love him or hate him. You can feel him thinking in terms of decades and institutions, and like, good Lord, man, we are starting to become perceived as just this hyper political organization. And I think that causes him to make different decisions he might otherwise. But nonetheless, Billy's in my ear saying we got to give a break. And that's good news for you out there at 710 KNUS, because the next sultry voice you're going to hear, those dulcet tones come from Jeff Hunt, Colorado Christian University, an all-around good guy and Elbert County resident, still the most American county in the state of Colorado. And I'm a Douglas guy. I love Douglas. Elbert County is still the most American county you're going to get to, man. It's just, if you haven't gone out there for one of the county events, a fair, a rodeo, even the conservative breakfast, you come away feeling like, oh my God,
They
I'm back
don't.
in
They
Colorado.
don't even run Democrats out there.
Yeah. Well, I think in part because they've limited them by law. They're like only 1% of the population at any one time. Yeah, it's catch and release, and you'll see them in the grocery store because they're tagged. They just to monitor their whereabouts, and it's made for quite a wonderful county. Hey, listen, thanks, Billy. Thanks, listeners, for the week. We'll get back at it Monday on Thanksgiving week. I'll be right here. Treat Jeff well. Blow up the phones. Blow up the texts. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Jeff Hunt filling in for George Brauchler, the international man of mystery. I don't know. You probably don't know this. They actually built the entire movie Jason Bourne after the life of George Brauchler. He's got to run out. Jeff Hunt, Centennial Institute, filling in for him. George, I got to give you a congratulations. So George and I together have fought this kind of crazy drug decriminalization, legalization thing that's happened all throughout this country that's just turning our cities into literally Walking Dead zombie hellholes. This out on Twitter yesterday. Snoop Dogg, I'm giving up smoke. It's almost you gotta see this because it's almost kind of like a very serious issue for him. All right, this is an actual tweet from Snoop Dogg. After much consideration and conversation with my family, I've decided to give up smoke. Please respect my privacy at this time. Snoop, congratulations. You finally woke up on the stupidity that is marijuana. George and I have been fighting this for years, and I just want to declare victory. I think it's important to declare victory. Hey, for KNUS, who stopped the needle injection sites, it feels like maybe people have finally woken up to the idea that just allowing people to publicly use illicit drugs isn't the best idea. It's turned our cities into Walking Dead zombie hellholes, and maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. So, George, congratulations. All right, I want to continue the conversation that George started with Chip Roy. Here's Chip on the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday.
One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a different side to Chip. And I heard the callers previously, and feel free to call in and share your thoughts on this. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. I don't think I want Congress doing a lot. They passed what, Billy? Something like 22 bills? So what? What great problem has government ever really solved? I posted this on Twitter the other day. X, sorry, whatever it's called. Just lock the door and return if there's an emergency. I would be perfectly fine if that's how our government operated. Last year here in the state legislature, they introduced 450 bills. 450 bills. We're a state that's well over 100 years old. The Centennial State, founded in 1876. Coming up on what, 100 and near 50 years old now. What great idea are you going to introduce that's going to make people's lives better? It doesn't happen. Instead, responding to lobbyists, they tinker with government so that particular industries can outperform other industries. Perfect example, windmills. Windmills can't operate on their own without massive government subsidies. So they need to go to the government and they tinker and they get taxpayer dollars. And lo and behold, we have cheaper windmills. Congratulations. Thank you for solving all of our problems. You didn't. You don't work on behalf of the people. You work on behalf of special interest groups. So what? You didn't achieve anything in Congress. I actually think that America might be better for that. But maybe you need to go do something. Maybe you actually can solve problems. I don't know. Billy, do you think that any time in the last 5-6 years, the House of Representatives has actually achieved anything that made life better for people?
Yeah, I could say so. I think there are a number of things. And again, it's also
like
though
what? Like what?
The one thing that I would look at would be, and no one likes this, would be the push towards Obamacare. And I'm sorry, I know it's not popular. I know you laugh, but why is that not?
Watch out, the text messages are going to come in, Obamacare.
Yeah, I know. But what's the alternative? Because here's the thing, and this is the idea. We agreed everyone in the country agreed before they passed Obamacare that the healthcare system was broken.
Yeah.
We were charging too much. Now, the Obamacare thing hasn't necessarily fixed it, but it has eased it for people that are on the lower end of the economic spectrum. It has made an ability for them to get healthcare. And that is a good thing. And this is the reason why we don't refuse healthcare to people in this country. Everyone talks about we can't have socialism. We can't have universal payer. Dum-dum, we already have it. We don't refuse healthcare to anybody based on insurance or no insurance. You show up at an emergency room, you get treated. What we have done in this country is we have created a healthcare system when those people that don't have insurance, we have made sure that you and I, the regular payers, are going to pay the maximum amount to cover them. Nobody who is creating a business model would say that is smart, yet that's how we operated. While Obamacare is imperfect by far, and I will throw rocks at the Republicans for not getting on the bus, they knew this was coming. Whether or not it was going to pass wasn't an issue. The fact they didn't allow to play along and then complain about it, you didn't come to the party. We could have gotten something that fiscally would have worked if the Republicans would have played along. They didn't.
No.
Yes, they did.
Billy,
yes. No, they said no.
It is
they
not the government's job to solve this, and they can't. The
What do you mean,
problem of
solve
healthcare.
what? Solve what?
Of the cost of healthcare.
Okay.
Okay.
And the problem is
the
what?
cost of healthcare is twofold, right? It is greedy insurance companies that have jacked up the prices, kept everything, shaded from people so they can't understand what the real cost is associated with healthcare, so they can jack up the prices there, and government's involvement. It's twofold.
Wait,
and the idea that somehow the House of Representatives, with all the brilliance they have, is going to solve the cost problem with healthcare.
Medicare and Medicaid are the most efficient ways we deliver healthcare in this country. Cost-wise,
no
hands
way.
down. Yes,
no
it is.
way.
I know that you don't believe it, but yes, it is. That is. It is the most cost-effective way that we deliver healthcare in this country. It also is one of the most popular governmental programs, the socialized medicine that everybody yells against. And understand the idea that, we need, with the insurance companies taking too much money, that doesn't solve the problem of the uninsured. It doesn't solve the problem, and that's what I started with, of the uninsured walking into the hospital, and you and I, the insured, have to pick up that cost, and we pay the highest dollar amount. That is fiscally stupid. If I came to you with a business plan and said, this is our plan, you would look at me and say, get out of my office, you moron. But yet we agreed on that. So again, while Obamacare is massively imperfect, it did help move that line. It did help. Not a lot as far as significantly, but it did help. We have people in this country that are insured at a level they can afford, and you and I are not getting saddled with those bills coming out of the hospitals. The hospitals will routinely tell you that the reason you're paying $200 for a Tylenol is because of the uninsured people they have that come through that ER. That's why it costs you $15,000 to $5,000 to walk through the door of the AR, because of that.
And Obamacare just exacerbated that. Yes, it did.
You had more.
It has gotten more expensive for everybody else.
And why is that the problem for Obamacare? Is that we go back to the insurance costs. It's the insurance costs and how we're providing it. Obamacare has got more people insured and at a lower cost.
No.
So the idea, yes,
it
has
has
more.
not.
Yes, it has.
It
That
has
is
made
the fact.
everything worse.
And again, your generalization is fantastic, except for the fact that it is not lining up with the facts. There are more people that are insured now in America than before we had Obamacare. It is covering people that couldn't get insured more.
And yet everything has got more expensive when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah, and
that's just the private.
Why did you say the things are getting more expensive? Because of the insurance is what you laid on.
That's
what you said.
It's
that's
both.
I
said it was both, Billy.
And what was the other one? Insurance and what?
And the government's involvement in healthcare.
And
how in the world?
Hang on a sec. Wait, Billy, hang on a sec. Yet the fact that Medicare delivers healthcare at a lower cost per price point than anything else in this country.
That's because they have the power to negotiate with these health insurance providers.
Yes. But your statement that the government is spending too much on the healthcare and that's the problem is not backed up by the fact that they are getting the lowest cost. They are the most efficient based on cost in this country. Yes, it's because they can set price. I'm not arguing that. But the idea that the government is making it more expensive when if you put them on par, the cost you're paying through insurance and healthcare far outweighs the government cost. That is not a true statement. You can disagree with it politically, but factually, that is not a true statement.
If anybody can make sense of how this works, then please allow Chip Roy to have more power to be able to change the government. Here's what's frustrating to me. What we just talked about is not crystal clear to most people. And in part, it's because of the government's involvement in healthcare. So just because the government can't achieve things that it wants to achieve, we don't give them more power, we don't let them tinker the way they want to tinker, does not necessarily mean that things are going to get better. And so I kind of disagree with Chip Roy. I don't really care that the Republican House of Representatives hasn't achieved all these things that they want to achieve, because when the government tinkers, they're not doing it on behalf of the people. They're doing it on behalf of special interest groups. All right, we're up against a commercial break. My goodness, we got a lot of text messages coming in on that. This is Jeff Hunt filling in for George Brauchler. We'll be right back. You're listening to 710 KNU.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Jeff Hunt filling in for George Brauchler. It's a beautiful Friday, mostly sunny, 62. Saturday, partly cloudy, 63. It's going to get a little cooler Sunday and Monday with some morning flurries coming on Monday. So get ready for that. Gosh, it's great to be with you all. Thanksgiving week just ahead. When we come back from this commercial break, we're going to have Ben Murrey on because, friends, we are going to war today. You may not realize it. You may have thought, hey, we stopped Proposition HH, Preparation HH. We stopped it, right? Didn't we send a clear message to the Democrats that this wasn't going to work? Well, Jared Polis has called a special session, and they are going to the Capitol today, and they are proposing, again, to take your Tabor refunds in order to offset property tax cuts. It's like they didn't learn anything from the election. And so us conservatives have got to hold their feet to the fire. We'll be back with that and more at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Jeff Hunt filling in for George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll them out shelves. Your clutter transformation experts create affordable, Colorado-crafted, organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll them out shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
We're going to war today. Jeff Hunt going in for George Brauchler in 710 KNUS. Special session called at the state legislature. Here from the Denver Post. Colorado lawmakers are set to gavel in Friday morning for a pre-Thanksgiving feast of tax policy as they try to tamp down the worst of spiking property taxes. Much more will be on the agenda during the special session, which begins at 9 a.m. right now and is expected to last at least 3 days. So what happened? Jared Polis and the Colorado Democrats put Proposition HH on the ballot. It lost by 19 points. So here they are stuck with property taxes increasing an average of 40% in the state of Colorado, and they need to come up with a solution. Their proposed solution, essentially doing everything that the voters rejected in Proposition HH. On the line with me is Ben Murrey from the Independence Institute, one of the chief fighters against Proposition HH. He's going to give us some insight into what's going to happen at the state capitol over the next 3 days. All right, Ben Murrey, you're on with Jeff Hunt, 710 KNUS.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff, hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, give us a lowdown. What is going to happen these next 3 days?
Things are changing and moving fast. So the original plan of the Democrats who control the legislature was to completely steamroll Republicans, completely steamroll voters, and basically just repackage HH as legislation without asking voters this time. So that what does that mean? Actually, it was more than repackaging HH, but it was largely repackaging HH. It was, let's pay for property tax relief out of TABOR refunds, just like HH did. But then they wanted to redistribute the rest of the TABOR refunds like HH would have done, right? This equal redistribution scheme. And then they actually wanted to do some more things. They wanted to change some tax credits so that revenue, this gets kind of in the weeds of policy, but when you do a tax credit, it reduces state revenue and lets you give basically tax handouts, special interest tax benefits to whoever you think you need to give them to buy votes. And that money then also comes out of our TABOR refunds because it reduces revenue. So basically, the special session has become, and still is, just this massive redistribution scheme of our TABOR refunds.
And if you think to yourself, well, my goodness, they lost bigly on Proposition HH. Of course, they wouldn't propose similar ideas to go after TABOR refunds. Friends, they did this on oil and gas just a few years ago. When voters in the state of Colorado said the oil and gas industry is critical to us, we want it protected. It provides jobs. It provides revenue for our economy, for our government. When they got into session, they just ran through the bill anyways, and nobody cared. The voters continued to just put Democrats back into office anyways. So if you think that they're seriously not going to go after TABOR because the voters said don't touch it, it seems like they could just follow the same path. And Ben Murrey, they may not end up with any consequences as a result of it.
They may not. They may or they may not. I mean, look, what Democrats are trying to accomplish with the special session is just, I think it's their goal to just spit in voters' faces. The question is, will voters care, or will they wipe it off and shrug their shoulders and vote for the same people who keep spitting in their faces? I don't know the answer to that. We won't know till next November. I will say this. Democrats got called out so badly for using TABOR refunds to pay for property tax relief in a special session. That's what their original plan that was floating around was going to do. They got called out so much, even by Kyle Clark, that they took that out of their current plan, right? So they're no longer going to use TABOR refunds to pay for property tax relief based on the current draft. But here's the thing, Jeff. Don't be fooled by that. All they're doing is just saying, okay, fine. If you're going to give us a hard time about using TABOR refunds to pay for property tax relief, we'll just give you next to no property tax relief, right? So the Colorado special session was called in order to provide property tax relief, nothing else. You don't need to touch TABOR refunds to give us property tax relief. The whole point is tax bills are being locked in on December 15th, and Democrats screwed the pooch with Proposition HH. They had 3 years to replace the Gallagher Amendment. They didn't do it.
Right.
So they proposed this Proposition HH, which was a boondoggle and was a huge tax increase. Voters said no to that. So now they've got like 2 or 3 weeks to figure out some kind of a stopgap measure to prevent people's property taxes from going up 40 or 50%. And their plan was, okay, well, we'll just take it out of your Tabor refund and give you property tax relief. And people said, no, we just said no to that. Don't do that. And Democrats said, well, crap. Well, if we can't raid your Tabor refunds to pay for your property tax relief, then we'll just amend our plan so that you get almost no property tax relief. So their current plan doesn't use Tabor refunds to pay for property tax relief, but it gives you even less property tax relief than what HH would have given you, which was nearly zero.
Ben, this doesn't seem that complicated. Why not just reduce property taxes for the people of Colorado and just accept that you're not going to have as much money coming into the government? Why not just do that?
Well, they won't have as much of an increase, right? Like this whole concept of we need to pay for property tax relief with Tabor refunds or with anything else is just absurd. This whole concept of backfill is absurd. If my local government gets a 20% revenue increase instead of a 40% revenue increase, they're just fine and they don't need backfill.
Right. Everything is premised on the idea that we have to have all this money for our government, and the government has to deliver all these critical resources. By the way, how great are our schools right now with all the money that the government provides to them? I mean, so they're all premised on the idea that we have to have all this money coming into government. We couldn't just provide property tax relief. So what are the Republicans going to do down there at the state capitol?
Jeff, I got to add something to what the Democrats are doing. I don't think I was clear. Democrats are no longer going to touch Tabor refunds to quote unquote backfill property tax relief. They just basically got rid of the property tax relief in the special session that's supposed to be about property tax relief. And the vast majority of what they're using the special session to do, at least based on their current plan, is redistribute our Tabor refunds.
Yeah.
So they may not be paying for property tax relief with Tabor refunds, but they're still tapping into our Tabor refunds, right? They've come up with this redistribution scheme they've mapped out, and they're wringing their hands together. They're going, okay, well, fine. If we can't use it for property tax relief, we'll just redistribute it to our friends. And that's what they're doing.
Government driven by special interests. I've said it time and time again. That's really what's done at the state capitol. This seems like another example. We're going to take your property tax refund that is yours. This is your money. This money doesn't belong to the government. They're going to, instead of returning it back to you, they're going to call a special session so they can deliver this to their friends?
Yes. So the way it works is a Tabor refund is really just an overcollection of taxes.
Right.
Like they were withholding too much from my paycheck every month or every week or whenever I got my paycheck. They were withholding too much. And so they have to return that back to me. Now, reasonably, that should generally go back to the people who paid it in proportion with what they paid, right? So if I paid $100 in taxes and $10 of that was an overpayment, then I should get $10 back. But if you only paid $10 in taxes and you only paid $1 in overpayment, then maybe you should probably get $1 back, right? Well, what the Democrats are doing is say, well, forget all that. We're not going to treat Tabor refunds as a repayment of overcollected taxes. We know we're required to return it somehow back to people. So what we're going to do is use the special session to determine who and what and how gets that money.
The equitable tax refund. That's incredible.
It's more than just a flat refund. They're not just doing flat refunds again. No, they're creating tax credit. They're expanding tax credits and picking who's going to get these special tax handouts. And it gets complicated how they're able to get away with it. But basically, the Colorado courts have rubber stamped the legislature being able to give out our Tabor refunds as special interest tax benefits, and that's what they're going to do.
Why did the courts support that?
I can't get into it in such a short time, but basically almost every time the Supreme Court in Colorado has ruled on Tabor, they've always ruled against Tabor and they've always ruled against taxpayers.
Wow.
Because they're activists.
So give us an update on what Republicans are going to do.
So Republicans have a couple plans that are floating out there. One is basically, hey, let's just freeze property taxes at last year's levels. I think that's a good approach.
Right, which would mean less money for the government. That's why Democrats won't accept that, right?
Right. Yeah, of course. It would allow a little bit of an increase, but it says let's freeze values at last year's levels and allow a 6% increase in tax revenue to local governments. I think it's a reasonable approach. That's one Republican plan. The other Republican plan I think is also reasonable. It's now it has the backfill stuff, which it's more of the compromise bill. So the other Republican plan says, okay, fine, Democrats, if you guys insist on backfill, we'll do backfill, but we're not going to pay for it from TABOR refunds. And it's going to be meaningful, significant property tax relief, right? So that's the big difference is the Democrat plan says, okay, fine, because we're getting called out by Kyle Clark, we won't backfill our property tax relief with TABOR refunds, but then we just basically won't provide any real property tax relief. The Republican plan says, no, we're not going to dip into TABOR refunds to do property tax relief, but we're still going to provide meaningful property tax relief.
And that'll be rejected. Why?
The Democrats say it's irresponsible because it doesn't provide enough, because of how it provides the backfill, actually. It's because of how it provides the backfill. So it would be irresponsible to provide the backfill out of our massive reserve, that's a multi-billion-dollar reserve that's sitting there. That would be irresponsible. That money just needs to sit in state coffers to pay for Jared Polis's overpromised, underdelivered universal preschool program. So we can't tap into that money. So, we don't want to tap into TABOR refund. So we really just can't provide property tax relief. That's what Democrats
It's like drunk teenagers with credit cards are running our government right now. They're coming up with all these schemes and plans that they can't even pay for. Friends, we are in this position with our property taxes because of a plan they put forth with regards to the repeal of Gallagher. So this didn't just find its way to us, stumble upon us. Oh my gosh, 40% increase in tax, property tax rates. No. This was a problem they created, and they're creating worse problems by trying to solve the problem that they already created. So is there one strategy I've heard out there from Republicans that are just like, hey, your party, your problems, not my monkeys, all your stuff, you deal with it. We're just going to go hang out and watch you guys just self-destruct. Is that a sense that the Republicans have down there at the state capitol?
I mean, the Republicans are offering real solutions. Democrats just aren't interested.
Because it doesn't deliver money to their special interest groups.
I mean, look, it's like this, Jeff. What's likely to come out of the special session, based on what I see right now, unless Democrats have a change of heart, is you'll get less property tax relief than you would have. We'll get less property tax relief than HH would have given us. So next to nothing. Okay. Democrats will redistribute your TABOR refunds however they see fit. And you may or may not get more TABOR refunds. It depends on if Democrats like you and think you're worthy of getting your money back. It's completely dependent on whether Democrats think you're worthy of getting your money back, whether you'll get a bigger TABOR refund or a smaller TABOR refund or whatever. And, I don't understand why they need to touch TABOR refunds at all to provide property tax relief. It just shouldn't even be part of the discussion.
And so they're going to do this 3 days, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. We're going to go into Thanksgiving break. People are going to forget about this. Our taxes are going to go up. And then next November, they all get reelected, right? I mean, this is what they did on oil and gas. They just kind of ignored the will of the people, plowed right through it. Delivered their special agenda for their special interest groups, and the voters of Colorado were like, yeah, please, sir, continue to run our state the way you are. I mean, is that what's going to happen after all this is said and done?
I'm not going to predict future elections, but, the ultimate answer to this is elections. I mean,
right.
The question really comes down to, do the voters care? Are the voters going to deliver some kind of consequence to our elected officials when they vote next November? And I don't know the answer to that. I will say this: if you're a homeowner in Colorado, you're going to get a massive property tax increase as a result of what's coming. They're not actually giving you the break we need before your tax bill comes in.
Wow.
And if you're a property owner, your TABOR refund is going to be redistributed in some way to. Now you may still get some TABOR refunds, but maybe bigger or smaller. I don't know. It depends on what they end up doing and how they do it. And I don't know I can't go through all 6 million Coloradans and talk about each of their individual situations. But the point is that the Democrats are going to decide who actually gets their money back and how much and this and that. But on net, if you're a homeowner, you're getting screwed, right? Because you're still going to have a massive property tax increase. and may get a bigger or smaller taper refund.
On top of inflation, on top of all the challenges. Ben, I talk to people all the time. We're talking with Ben Murrey of the Independence Institute. I talk to people all the time that are working 2 or 3 jobs right now just to maintain the lifestyle they had 5 or 6 years ago. Right? They're coaching on the weekends. And now they're going to get a massive property tax increase on top of increased inflation. My goodness, where's the relief?
Those people who are working 2 or 3, who are working really hard, they're the ones actually paying taxes and contributing. They're the ones who the state overcollected taxes from.
Yeah.
And the Democrats are effectively going to make those people write checks to meth heads on Colfax so they can go buy more meth.
I'm just going to let that sit there because you guys, you have to understand the victory we had 2-3 weeks ago with Proposition HH. This is what is the result of that. So you still get a victory. We all high-fived each other Tuesday night, but the people that are leading this state are so dang corrupt that they're going to just drive this through and take your Tabor refunds to give to special interest groups. So what do, Ben? I mean, we're sitting here watching the special session kicked off 20 minutes ago. How do they watch this? How do they watch the Ben Murray response to this? And how do they provide any type of influence?
Yeah, I mean, to follow what's going on minute by minute, follow my Twitter. I mean, I stay pretty updated on Twitter. It's at Ben A. Murray. That's Murray with an EY, M-U-R-R-U-I, Ben A. Murray on Twitter. Go to IITV3 YouTube channel, at IITV3, and you'll find our great videos on what's going on. And then I recommend just staying up to date with what the media is saying. I mean, you know, this is so fast moving. I'd love to say, oh, well, follow our website, but my Twitter on something like this, because things are so fast moving, is the best way really to follow it.
Complete Colorado, I'm sure, will be updating it as well.
I'm sorry, and Complete Colorado. In fact, Complete Colorado is going to have a really important story out on what's going on the Republican side. I think last night or today they'll have it out.
That's the news agency that's kind of managed by the Independence Institute, CompleteColorado.com, CompleteColorado.com. Friends, you can't just declare victory against Prop HH and expect that everything's going to work out. The will of the people is to protect Tabor, reduce property taxes, reduce the scope of government. We are a fiscally conservative state, and our elected officials are going to ram this through. And you're going to pay more with your property taxes. You're going to lose your Tabor refund. Congratulations. Welcome to the leadership of the state of Colorado. Ben Murray, Independence Institute, I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, Jeff.
All right, guys, follow him. Like I said, we are at war over the next 3 days. Do not let the Thanksgiving holiday distract you from this. They want you to be distracted from this. They want you to ignore it. They want you to think that we won on Prop HH and defeated that, and everything's great, when they're going to push through very similar problems and solutions that are going to really continue to create very serious problems for the state of Colorado and for homeowners, like you just heard from Ben Murray. All right, when we come back, how in the world is Nikki Haley? Explain this to me, please. Call in 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. How is Nikki Haley doing so well in the polls? I don't get it. I need your help. You're listening to Jeff Hunt, filling in for George Brauchler, 710 KNUN.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Chip Hunt filling in for George Brauchler on this beautiful Friday. Happy Thanksgiving weekend coming up here. Today, mostly sunny, 62. Saturday, partly cloudy, 63. Sunday, cooler. Monday, morning flurries. I was looking at running the turkey trot with my kids, but it's going to be like 36 degrees on Thursday. And I'm not that committed to running the turkey trot. So we may forego this one. All right. I need help with this. Billy, maybe you can help. What is the appeal of Nikki Haley to becoming the president of the United States? Here's a new Marquette Law School national survey finds Biden trailing 3 GOP opponents. Trump still dominating the GOP primary. But Nikki Haley was outperforming Trump and DeSantis against Joe Biden. And Haley's kind of like coming on these last few weeks, right? She's getting energy. There's people behind her. But it seems so much to me from my perspective, like we're going back to like 2004. George H.W. Bush, kind of strong foreign policy investments, and we're going to be active in, all the different countries that we're going to be active in.
Does Haley give you that impression?
She does. Absolutely.
That she's going to go around nation building? How?
Especially after the last debate.
In what way?
In the sense of like how we're going to be in Ukraine. We're going to be in Taiwan. We're going to be defending all of these countries. And we're going to be out there engaging in that. Go ahead.
Explain to me the use of the word be. How are you using the word be? Now,
there's lots of different levels.
That's important.
Right.
Because if we are talking about funding and providing support for Afghanistan and Taiwan, that's different than boots on the ground. I have not heard, the only person I've talked about that I've heard as far as boots on the ground is Vivek, and he wants to go into Iran. He wants to put boots on the ground in Iran. So that's the only person that I've seen this idea of going and taking our military around the world. Nikki will support Ukraine and will support Taiwan. Remember, Vivek says Taiwan, China, you better keep your hands off of it just for 4 years. After his first term, then China can have Taiwan. So I'm curious when you're sitting here and you're saying that somehow she's weak on the national stage. I haven't heard her talk about us being in Ukraine.
I'm not saying being weak on the national stage, but being a lot more active than Donald Trump and some of the other candidates are.
Okay, and then I have a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Is I'm having a hard time understanding. Maybe you can walk me through it.
Yep.
How supporting a democracy in Ukraine and how supporting a functional democracy in Taiwan and keeping the hands off of China. Why is that a negative? Why do we not want to defend the democracies internationally? Why is that a negative? And not talking about boots on the ground.
Right.
I'm talking about support and arms and money. Why is that a bad thing?
There's been a change in primarily grassroots conservatives. I've noticed this at our school, even at CCU. We hosted a debate 2 weeks ago on whether or not it is in America's best interest to defend Taiwan. Now, CCU is a top 10 most conservative school in America. Majority of the students in that room voted against that statement. It is in America's best interest to defend Taiwan.
Okay.
And we had a debate. And one was from the Washington Post. The other guy was the architect of Trump's withdrawal from Afghanistan. And smart guy. His argument was Vietnam, Korea, Somalia, Kosovo, Iraq 1, Kuwait, Iraq 2, Afghanistan, Ukraine. What has been the benefit to America for being involved, might not be boots on the ground, but being involved in all of those different foreign issues? Well, what has been the benefit? And there's an exhaustion among conservatives of all of this type of foreign activity.
Again, I find the idea that the conservatives are now exhausted about exercising our military power fairly ironic, given the history of the past couple of decades. Also, if we're going to talk about how the college students feel, just for perspective, we have hundreds, if not tens of thousands of college students across the country protesting and being in favor of Palestine. So just because the college kids are in favor of it, are they right?
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there's definitely a shift that's happened.
I know,
right?
but
it's a shift that's happened in my own life. Go ahead.
Yes, but that's what I'm pointing out. You had this supposition that because the conservative college kids said it was right, that then it is self-evident that it is right. I disagree. That was
I'm
your
talking about
premise.
trends.
I
I'm talking about
understand that.
trends.
I understand that. But the trend can be stupid. The trend can be wrong.
Yeah.
The trend for the liberal college students to support Palestine is stupid and wrong. The trend for conservative college students to say we shouldn't
I don't think
defend
it's just
democracies.
college students.
Hang on, but that's where you started. I'm dealing with your premise. And so that trend is also stupid and wrong. Ukraine is vitally important strategically for global relations. If we don't understand where Ukraine sits and why Russia wants it, we don't understand this game. We have lost the narrative of the plot. Ukraine is vitally important for access to that part of the European peninsula, but the other part is it is the breadbasket of Europe. That is food.
Billy,
we need to defend it. We do not give the food
Vietnam
to
was vitally important, and if we don't stop the communists they're going to continue to march. Iraq,
hang on a second.
Vitally important. These have been the
hang on a
same arguments made for the last 40 years with regards to foreign intervention.
Is my argument wrong? You're discounting my argument based on previous
I'm
examples.
having PTSD from like 20 years of the same argument.
Tell me I'm wrong. You're just trying to discount the argument because of previous conflicts. I agree. Iraq was wrong. Vietnam was wrong. I'm not going to argue that, nor am I trying to. But Ukraine is the right fight. It is a functional democracy. Russia is trying to expand. They've said that is not the end of it. After that, they want Belarus, they want the Balkans, they want Poland, they want Turkey. They want those next. They've said it in public. Why are we standing here saying it's okay that Russia can have Ukraine? Explain to me why it is not vital for geopolitics. It is the breadbasket of Europe. It is going to feed a majority of that continent in the next 20 years. So it does so right now.
With that argument, is that absolutely critical then that we put troops into Ukraine? If we have to defend this breadbasket so much, it's so vitally important.
No, we
that
don't.
We're going to go send our sons over to Ukraine?
No, but we do send our money. We do send our military
So
power,
it's not that vitally important.
Yes, it is. We do not want to get into direct conflict armed-wise with Russia. But again, if Russia starts taking over and goes through 3/4 of the country, I would not be I would not be opposed putting boots on the ground. It is that important. Yes, defending this democracy is important. And if people don't understand geopolitically, I just explained it to you.
Why is defending this democracy so important?
Okay,
we tried this with democracy building in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. It was utter failures.
Again, those are utter failures.
And we had much better our own self-interest with Afghanistan and Iraq.
Please deal with the subject that is on the table, not tangentially going over to Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq, which were boondoggles and failures. Deal with the subject that's on the table right now, which is, and I outlined it to you just a couple minutes ago, and you have yet to deal with it. That geopolitically it is important because of access to that part of the continent, because of where the bays sit, because of the waterways. It is also the breadbasket. It is food. It is vitally important to secure that. You do not want to give Russia the control of that grain. They provide a majority of grain to portions of Africa and also some of it inside of Asia. It is, and also back into Europe. Why does Russia keep blowing up the grain silos? Why was Russia worried when Ukraine said we're not going to keep sending grain your direction? That's what they wanted.
So why is this America's interest? I don't care about Ukrainian grain.
Why not?
Because it has nothing to do with anything that's happening in this country.
You do like to eat?
Yes, but we don't get our. You don't think we can grow grain in Kansas?
Okay, so what happens if we have a blight and there is a shortage?
Where do we get it from? Here.
No. Again, please. Let's deal with the information that I give you. Okay.
Yes,
I said we have a blight. A blight is destroying the crops. And then you're like, well, we'll grow more.
Yes.
That doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. When you have a blight on your crops, ask the farmers. You've dealt with this. If you have a blight on your corn crop, it takes a long time to replenish that crop. If you have a blight on the grain, you don't have access to grain.
We're going to send billions of dollars to Ukraine for grain?
Yes. Do you not like to eat?
No, it does not matter that much.
Then you do not understand.
We don't live in Rhode Island where we have like no farmland. This is America.
Then with respect, you do not understand the global market as far as food and how it works. With respect, you don't understand it. If you do not see the strategic importance inside of Ukraine and where
I'm not going to war over grain in Ukraine.
Okay, then when you can't feed yourself, go right ahead and don't complain about it. Don't complain.
I think, oh
Don't
my
complain
God, I'm
about
having PTSD from like this idea that somehow if we don't send trillions of dollars and get invested into this particular one area of the country, then the whole world's going to fall apart. Like we can't just figure this out some other way.
Again, that is a wonderful extrapolation out of stuff that I never said. But thank you. Thank you for drawing conclusions I never came to. But it's okay. I continue jumping to conclusions so you can get your steps in and your heart rate up and stuff, because that's not what I said. It's vitally important based on the access to that part of the world, and it's vitally important for the grain and where the grain is going right now.
Not my problem. I don't care if Europe can't figure out how to get grain. That's their problem, and I'm tired of spending our tax dollars and our blood to try to go solve these other problems.
Oh, so you're just a nationalist. You just want to pull up the drawbridges. You want to do it before. You want to go back to what we were pre-World War II. And just be an isolationist. That worked out well. That worked great. I'm going to get on the phones. That was wonderful. Nothing went wrong when we were isolationists. We were booming, and the American economy was great, and the world was, oh yeah, World War.
You talk about extrapolation. So going back to my original question, why in the world is Nikki Haley leading? I don't think she gets out of this Republican primary. I don't see her as a viable candidate that's going to win the Republican primary, because I think the conservative movement has changed. And I was a guy that was all for the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. I used to write in our graduate paper in seminary about how important it is to go establish these democracies in Afghanistan. And if the people of Afghanistan just had a taste of democracy, then they're going to embrace it. And that part of the world's going to become better. And 20 years later, and losing my friends and spending blood and treasure in these countries, it is a very serious question as to what we got out of it. And the fact that Nikki Haley, who seems to be far more hawkish and far more interventionist, is somehow leading in the polls.
Got a question for you.
What would Reagan do? What did Reagan do?
No, what would Reagan do? Because again, the GOP and conservatives hold him up as one of the top two presidents that we've had over the previous decades. This situation with Ukraine, what does Reagan do?
Well, I think Reagan had some of his problems with foreign intervention, especially as it relates to South America.
Okay,
and Central
question.
America.
That's a great speech, but answer the question.
Right? So he had challenges there.
No, answer the question.
But he was able to take down the Soviet Union without going to war against the Soviet Union.
Okay, again, you have spent a lot of words not answering the question.
What was the
question? Answer the question. What would Reagan do with Ukraine? What would he do?
I don't know.
Well, you have the former leader of the KGB from the USSR invading a country. You think Reagan would go, oh, Russia's invading a country, let him have it. You think that's the position he would take? The guy who was Mr. Gorbachev,
I don't think it's the
tearing down the wall?
I don't think it's the 1980s anymore. And they didn't drive into East Germany either.
Who didn't? The Russians did.
No, the Russians did, but the Americans
did
didn't.
we not forget that? I know, but again,
we didn't go to war in East Germany.
I'm not talking.
We built
about,
a wall and eventually defeated them other ways.
You're the one talking about going to war in Ukraine. I'm not.
I don't want to go to war in Ukraine.
No, but you're the one using an example that I have not used nor endorsed. So it's a straw man. Stop it. With respect, stop it. Deal with it on the end, because you're telling me that Reagan would say it's okay for the former guy that ran the KGB to allow Russia an attempt to put back together the USSR and take over a functioning democracy that is an ally. He would say, yep, fine, and wash his hands of it. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I think you're ignoring the failures we've had in Afghanistan and Iraq, and you're trying to read into
No. You're the one reading into it, because you're using those previous failures as examples of this can't possibly work. And I will remind you, those previous failures involved boots on the ground. Nothing of which I have advocated for. That is your fantasy that you're putting into the argument. That is not.
I'm wondering how important it is to defend the grain in Ukraine.
Yeah, but I've told you I don't want boots. There are certain points where I would get to that, but that's not the example. So stop using Vietnam. Stop using Iraq. Stop using Afghanistan.
It's not that important.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not. It is not that important.
No, we've gone in circles at this point because I've already discussed this with you. We've already covered this. Go ahead and go to the phone calls. We've already gone in this circle. We're back 10 minutes ago.
All right, Mark, I want to get to you, but we've got to get to a commercial break. Let's do the commercial break. Mark, hang on. Phone system's lighting up. You can call in 303-696-1971. We'll be right back. Jeff Hunt filling in for George Brauchler. We're just at the top of the hour. Billy and I getting into it over Ukraine. I'm going to go back to this John Quincy Adams. America should not be going abroad in search of monsters to destroy, especially when it comes to my sons and our tax dollars. And I think the conservative movement's changed. I think it's become far more isolationist, especially following Afghanistan and Iraq. And I think that's why Nikki Haley's going to have a real problem trying to win the Republican nomination. All right, Mark from Inglewood, you're on 710 KNUS. Jeff Hunt filling in for George Brauchler. What's up, man?
Good morning. My comment was about the border situation, and I'm an evangelical Christian myself, but I believe if Latin American countries had better welfare systems like the United States does, they would not be coming up here as much. If they just would not be. The United States has a much better welfare system than any Latin American country, and that's what makes us exceptional.
Well, it's not just the welfare system that they're coming for. It's the rule of law, right? I've done mission work in Mexico. You have to bribe everybody you go. So you have corruption, you have the rule of law, you have leftism. So literally what has made countries in South America, Central America terrible, the left wants to implement and import to the United States. And then want to welcome all the people that are fleeing those countries right up into our country with open borders to provide for them. I mean, it's an act of lunacy in my mind. And as an evangelical Christian, I've written about this in the Denver Post even, Mark, that we care for people, we care for immigrants that are coming through. But if your first act coming into the greatest country in the history of the world is to break our laws, you don't belong here. There's a pathway for refugees. There's a pathway to become a citizen. We have done that. We take in more immigrants than just about any other country in the world. We are an incredibly generous country, but if your first act coming into this country is to break the immigration law, you don't belong here. You don't get our values. You don't get what we stand for. You shouldn't be here. Go fix your own country. What say you, Mark?
Yes, I agree. I was married to a woman who came to the Latin American woman who came to the United States legally, and we have to protect our borders. But the other comment was starving our government of revenue. I just don't think that's God's way to starve our government of revenue. I just don't believe in that. But thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Mark. Mark hung up. I believe you absolutely should starve the government. It's the only way to slay the beast is to starve the beast. So he may be referencing the fact that we're going into a special session. Friends, today marks a 3-day war over your property taxes. And if you're not paying attention, you need to now. Jared Polis has called a special session down at the state capitol in light of the rejection of Proposition HH. And so what are the Democrats planning to do? Well, implement many of the ideas that you, the taxpayers, rejected in voting down Proposition HH. It starts today. It's going to run Monday and Tuesday. Your property tax increase is on the line. You've got to pay attention to this. Earlier in the segment, we had Ben Murrey on. So follow him. He's at the Independence Institute. He's going to be live tweeting what's happening down there at the state capitol. We got to pay attention. They're going to try to sneak this through the same thing they did with oil and gas. Voters of Colorado voted to protect oil and gas within the next legislative session. The Democrats down at the state capitol essentially torpedoed the entire oil and gas industry in the state of Colorado. And now they want to do it with your Tabor refunds and your property taxes. So you cannot allow that victory 2-3 weeks ago to just slide, pat yourself on the back and think that this thing is all done. This is a major battle over the next 3 days. All right. I want to close with this. We've only got a few minutes left. There is this manifesto by Osama bin Laden that was written the year after he organized planes to fly in and kill Americans. It's titled Letter to America, and it's going viral on TikTok because idiot leftists are praising it. Can you believe that? mostly because it's rooted in anti-Semitism. But if you see this, friends, this is what I've got to tell you, okay? Most college students today were not alive when 9/11 happened. Weren't even alive when 9/11 took place. And the fact that this next generation looks at letters written by Osama bin Laden and praises them is a failure of our school system. It's also our failure to help instruct the next generation. And so you've got to make sure that this does not seep in, guys, and become viral. I mean, look at this. Newsweek, a decades-old document allegedly written by Osama bin Laden titled Letter to America has gone viral on TikTok, with some young Americans believing that the Al-Qaeda founder made valid points about their own country. And this is being pushed by China as well as being elevated. This is all part of kind of an anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-America effort that's being pushed up and propped up by China and Russia. And I couldn't believe this, that people were praising Osama bin Laden, these younger generations in America. Disgusting. So you've got to tell the younger generations what Al-Qaeda did, what Osama bin Laden did, what it was like that morning, 9/11. We can never forget what they did to innocent Americans and somehow allow these leftists to now pull in Osama bin Laden in their praise of Hamas. We are in a civilizational battle. This is a battle for civilization. We have to push back and stand for what is right, have moral clarity, and do not allow these leftists that have infiltrated colleges and universities and schools to shape the next generation. This is a battle worth fighting for. KNUS, the tip of the spear in this. This is why I love them. Live and local. Jimmy Sengenberg is going to be on later today. Don't miss him in the 3 o'clock hour. Charlie Kirk, my good friends, coming up next. Brandon Tatum. It's all happening here. 710 KNUS. So stick around. Jeff Hunt filling in for George Brauchler. God bless you and yeehaw.